I want you and only you. I got nothing left to lose. Oh, so I'll keep waiting for you. It's the only thing that I can do to keep my composure. I need you closer. I want you and only you. I want you and only you. I got nothing left to lose. So I'll keep waiting for you. It's the only thing that I can do to keep my composure. Oh, I need you closer. I want you and only you. I want you and only you. So I'll keep waiting for you. It's the only thing that I can do to keep my composure. I need you closer. I want you. So I'll keep waiting for you. It's the only thing that I can do to keep my composure. I need you closer. I want you and only you. Oh, I need you closer. I want you and only you.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Pig Farm Revolution 2022 Web Summit. This interactive web-based summit is brought to you by the amazing team at Swine. My name's Dr. Clayton Johnson and I'm the Director of Veterinary Services here at Carthage Veterinary Service. I'm joining you today from our world-class broadcast studios here in Carthage, Illinois, and I hope you're just as excited as I am to spend the next couple of hours together learning together. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers for you, each of whom has excellent content to help you think creatively about the future of pig production and ultimately help you positively impact your business performance. Now, a little background on today's event. As you may already know, the purpose of SwineNet has always been to make events that are the least boring possible and deliver something innovative to the swine industry. The first edition of our event last year was a huge success, and we certainly thank everyone who joined us on that journey. Today, we begin the second edition of the Pig Farm Revolution. This year, we have hundreds of subscribers and many more that we know will watch via our YouTube channel later. To all our audience members, thank you for spending this time learning with us. To guide us through this journey, we've invited 7 revolutionary leaders who are already headed to the next level of swine production. Here's a special thanks to our speakers who accepted our invitation, our challenge, and will bring their best to this event, bring our best to you and your operations. Thank you very much to our speakers on behalf of both myself as well as the SwineNet team. Before we start, I would like to mention that our event is supported by innovative and outstanding companies that are already part of the pig revolution. Asymmetrics, Cloud Farms, Swine Tech, Summit Smart Farms. Thank you all very much. And please, to everyone in the audience, take some time to get to know these progressive companies. Without their contributions, we could not bring this excellent content to you. So let's get started with our first section with Dr. Scott D., Matthew Rooda, and Aidan Connolly.
Tear me apart, watch it burn. Tear me apart, watch it burn. All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.
Now, for our first speaker, it is my pleasure to introduce a man who needs absolutely no introduction at all. Dr. Scott D. is a tireless servant of the industry who routinely tackles the industry's biggest challenges. He embodies the phrase, do work that matters. Dr. D earned his DVM, his master's, and his PhD all from the University of Minnesota. He's board certified as a veterinary microbiologist, and he's also a past president of the AASV. After 12 years in both swine practice and academia, Scott joined the Pipestone Veterinary Services team, where he currently serves as their Director of Applied Research. Scott, thanks for joining us today, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, thank you very much. Very kind introduction. And thanks for the invitation. Thanks to the SwineNet team also. Pleasure to work with you all again. And I really like this revolution theme. I'm going to get it kicked off to a high level. We're talking mega revolution here. So I accepted the invitation because I love this theme. And I'm going to bring to you a new concept that we think will revolutionize biosecurity at the level of the sow farm or the breed to wean site. And I want to recognize my colleagues, Karen Havis, Gordon Sprock, Joel Nerum, all from Pipestone, Minnesota. So here we go. Now, got to start with a little bit of bad news. Infectious diseases in the pig industry are winning the war right now. For example, here's PRRS. Here's the PRRS cumulative incidence from July of 2009 up to the end of the disease year, June 30, 2022. This is the Minnesota reporting service that the late Dr. Bob Morrison started so long ago. And this is PRRS incidents across all participating companies. And there's 20 to 30 companies here that report their PRRS infections or outbreak data on a weekly basis. And then the university graphs it. So you've got incidence percent on the y-axis. You've got time, the disease year, July through June on the x-axis. Each of those lines is a composite cumulative incidence across all these farms and companies. So you look back up at the very top there, you see when this started, we were doing, not very good. And we're still not doing very good. Look at that, where that red arrow focuses on that little green line. That's the most recent year. We're right in the middle. We haven't moved the needle. There's a 25% incidence of PRRS outbreaks across all of these companies. That's a lot of PRRS. And we've been dealing with this for a long time. I think we've made very little progress. So that's the bad news. The good news is I think we have a way to solve this problem. And we're going to call it next generation biosecurity. This is a concept Dr. Gordon Spronk and I coined in our recent special issue on feed risk published in Transbounding Emerging Diseases. And what this is, as you see, is a comprehensive science-based approach to biosecure the national sow base. Now, when I think of disease transmission, and I'm going to use PRRS as a model throughout this entire discussion, there's really two buckets I put routes of transmission into. And this will help us understand what's the next generation, what's new about this. So there's really two buckets: direct routes, pigs and semen. We know that many diseases such as PRRS virus can be transmitted through infected pigs and contaminated semen. That's old news. And I think across the industry, we're in pretty good shape there. I think most companies understand that and have biosecurity measures in place. Negative breeding stock, negative semen sources, quarantine and testing. That's kind of old news. Where we start to see some variation and deviation is in what I'll call the indirect routes. These are the routes of spread that can be called mechanical, for example, people movement, transport, supplies, mechanical, fomite-based routes of transmission, aerosols, and most recently, feed and feed ingredients. Right now, I think looking at the industry, this is where the work needs to be done. We have not completed this yet, as we have with the direct routes. Now, the good news continuing is in regards to the indirect routes, what we can do about them. We have all the answers. We have all the science. What I'd like to do is briefly review for you 3 experiments that I ran over the course of my career, looking at mechanical transmission of PRRS virus. I'm going to review the snowball from hell model. You might remember that. I'm going to talk about aerosol transmission. We'll introduce the production region model. We'll review that if you haven't seen it before. And then feed transmission, transboundary and transcontinental models. So this is how I kind of figure out stuff, is I set up models that seem to simulate what actually happens in the real world. So let's look at them one at a time. Everyone probably remembers this. This is work I did back in 2000, where really back in 2000, all we knew about PRRS virus transmission were infected pigs and semen. We had no idea that mechanical routes, fomite-based routes, vehicles, supplies, people's boots and coveralls could move the virus around. So if you remember this, we basically took snow from good old Minnesota and we injected it with PRRS virus. We stuck it under a car and we drove it around all over the countryside, 50 kilometers here, 50 kilometers there. We showed that we could take it to a truck wash. We could contaminate the truck wash. We could contaminate our vehicle cab. We could contaminate our boots, and we could walk this virus right into a farm. And this was live virus too. This wasn't just PCR. So just real quick and dirty summary of that study. I did 10 replications, and you see all the points where we sampled to kind of see if live virus was there. The virus was in the snow under the car. Did we bring it to the truck wash? Did we then move it into our cabs of our cars through our boots? Did we then take it to a simulated farm and walk it into the farm? Did we find it on our shoes in the farm? Did supplies that came into the farm and contacted some contaminated flooring get contaminated as well? Cardboard box, styrofoam box, metal box, and plastic. And you can see, look at this chart. Each replicate you see there, 1 through 10, each red positive sign means live virus. So you can see that in 8 out of the 10 replications, we drug this virus mechanically throughout this entire coordinated sequence of events. Again, trying to simulate a day in the life of a pork producer, going to a truck wash after a trip to the processing plant, for example, washing the vehicle, taking it back to his or her farm. And look at that. This virus was very easy to move around mechanically. Now, what happened? A lot of good smart veterinarians and smart producers learned from this, and we got a lot done. So the impact was we raised awareness of mechanical spread. First of all, we showed that this can happen, that there is risk of contaminated hands, clothing, footwear, supplies, and the link that the transport plays in the whole thing. And so a lot of good ideas came up. Boot benches you see there, boot covers. You see the D&D room there, the supplies entering the farm at the designated room where they get sanitized and sit for a period of time. And then just to focus on transport, sanitation, making sure that our vehicles are clean. So the snowball from hell really woke the industry up to the potential for mechanical spread. Now, what about aerosol spread? There was a lot of cases now where people were doing things right mechanically, but they were still getting infected, and they were getting infected with new strains. And the theory was, gosh, this virus must be moving in the air. And if that's the case, how far can it go? And then could we filter the air into our barns to prevent that? So I did some projects with some of my graduate students, Andrea Pitkin, Satoshi Otaki, for example. We learned that PRRS virus can travel at least 9 kilometers in the air, so roughly 5.5 miles in a viable state, so it could infect pigs. Then we wanted to see what filters could do, so we set up this production region model. And so basically, this is what the model was looking like, and we wanted to kind of simulate a production region, a group of farms close together, a real dense area of pig production. So here we got 4 buildings. They're going to represent 4 farms. Building 1 you see in blue, we're going to have PRRS virus positive and Mycoplasma pneumoniae positive pigs, 300 pigs in that barn. And we're going to generate aerosols from that population. And those are going to blow downwind to 3 other farms, 3 other small buildings here. Building 2 in red, you see, we're going to call that a control. That's a non-filtered building, but it's going to have all the mechanical biosecurity in place. And then we've got 2 other buildings right next to it that are going to be filtered with different types of filters to see if they'll stay free. So we ran this study for 4 years. This production region model actually ran for 4 years. And I've summarized all the data in one slide for you. Basically, on the left, you see the virus and the mycoplasma that we were tracking in the air. We see that in the control, the non-filtered facility, the next column over, of the 65 replications, and a replicate was 1 month long in this case. Remember, this is a 4-year project. Each replicate's a month. 28 months out of 65 months, we had an airborne event moving from the source population into the non-filtered building. For mycoplasma, 17 out of 39 replicates, we had that organism travel in the air and infect our pigs in our non-filtered barn. But look at those other columns. These are all different types of filters we tested over time. The bottom line that's important to realize here, that in every filtered building, independent of what type we used, no infection occurred. You can see nothing but zeros in there as far as the infections. Plenty of replications, again, a 4-year project, a lot of power here, but no infection. So basically what did we do here? We showed that, yeah, airborne transport of this virus could occur, and we've provided a solution. Now we've got air filtration. So now if you get kind of the gist here, next generation, where are we going? We're going to take our mechanical biosecurity measures that we just discussed real briefly. We're going to take our aerosol biosecurity measures that we've addressed. And we're going to get into the final layer, the last layer of the kind of like the 3-layer sandwich is feed. Because there were still some farms that were located in very, very low dense regions that were doing everything correctly on the mechanical side, had a filtered facility, yet got infected. And we started to wonder, could feed be a vehicle that could move viruses into pig farms that had never been discussed before? feed, typically, sure, salmonella, potentially aflatoxins, but no one had ever looked at viruses. So what I did with the help of Dr. Megan Niederwerder from Kansas State University, Dr. Eric Nelson from South Dakota State, and Dr. Diego DL, who at the time was at South Dakota, we set up models. I'll call them transboundary models, first of all. And we wanted to simulate the movement of feed ingredients from Asia or Eastern Europe to the US. And so we took the list of ingredients you see there on the slide. So various soy products, DDGs, various amino acids and vitamins, pet foods, things we import into the United States from either China or from Eastern Europe. And over the top of the graph here, you've got all the different viruses that we spike these ingredients with. Okay, so SVA, that's Seneca virus. That's a great surrogate for foot and mouth disease virus. They're in the same family. We've got African swine fever right next to that, ASFV. We've got PRV, that's pseudorabies. There's PED. There's, as you read down the line, classical swine fever virus, circovirus, PRRS virus. So every time you see a red box, that meant the virus was live after our simulated journey. Now, the simulations took place either from China to Iowa or from Poland to Iowa, so trans-Pacific, transatlantic. These simulations were set up using exact details of a trip if this was actually going to happen. So transport time and environmental conditions over land and sea. And at the end of it all, we just wanted to see if the viruses lived or not. And so basically, every time you see a red box, that means live virus in that ingredient. So there's two things to take away here. Let's go to ASF. Read down the ASF column and you see lots of red boxes. And that means ASF survived in all of those ingredients after its journey. Read across. Look at soybean meal conventional. Look at all the red boxes. So some of these viruses live very well in feed, and some ingredients are very protective. So if you get the wrong virus in the wrong ingredient, it spells a lot of trouble. So this was the first time the industry ever considered feed as a vehicle for moving viruses from place to place. Now, the other model we've developed with the feed side is we call transcontinental, because all that previous work was done in the lab. But this was an interesting study. We actually took 1-ton totes of soy and complete feed. We spiked them with PED, PRRS, and Seneca virus, and we drove them around the United States, basically in a full-scale transport vehicle you see there on the left. And there on the right, you see the route we took. We started in Minneapolis, Minnesota, up there by letter A. You can see we went out west to get into the mountains. We went through Texas. We went along the Gulf Coast, up the eastern seaboard, and then came back to the Midwest, paralleling the Great Lakes. This was a 23-day journey. We covered about 10,800 kilometers. And we actually found by feeding these ingredients that had been spiked and had been on this journey, the viruses were still alive. We fed this feed to pigs in our biosafety level 2 facility at Pipestone, and the pigs got PRRS, the pigs got Seneca, the pigs got PED. So we showed the viruses actually live in this lengthy transcontinental journey that mimicked a real world delivery, actually in the real world. That's what's exciting about this. And I chose this pathway because I wanted to expose the viruses to climates that were either moist or dry or hot or cold. And I want to make it as real world as we could. I think we did that with this study. So what we did about the feed, I think the value we brought here was, well, we discovered a new risk factor. But since that time, I think we've solved the problem. We've got a special way we import high-risk ingredients from countries that have diseases we don't want to bring into, say, the United States. We call it responsible imports. It's actually managing feed imports like breeding stock, where the feed has to have certificates and be audited at manufacturing, actually go into a quarantine room and sit for 30 days at 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 23 degrees Celsius. So we've got a protocol now to handle ingredients that we either don't make in the US or we can get them so much cheaper from other countries. We've also showed that we can add mitigants to the diets, and they actually have some nice antiviral properties. So I tested 15 different products, and 14 of the 15 actually had antiviral effects. So those are things we can do at the level of the mill and at the farm when we're mixing our feed. And then the responsible imports helps us manage the introduction of these products to a country. A lot of activity in this field right now. The U.S. has a voluntary program, responsible imports based. Canada and Australia have national programs of responsible imports. And Europeans are getting into it too. They're starting to see that feed, it's a low risk, but they do believe that feed could be a vehicle for African swine fever movement across the European Union. So there's a lot of growing interest in this area. So there we go. We reviewed fast and furious the mechanical biosecurity, the aerosol biosecurity, and now the feed biosecurity. Can we put all of those elements together in a comprehensive, coordinated response, next generation? And does it work? I'm going to show you some of our data on PRRS from Pipestone, and I'm going to show you that I think this does work, because basically here we've got two graphs. The first one shows the incidence of PRRS outbreaks every year across our company. So approximately 75 sow farms, 300,000 sows. And you can see you got time on the x-axis. Each time there period is 1 year. You've got percent incidence on the y. You see where we started in 2009, 2010. Look where we are now, this last disease year. We actually finished with a 7.7% incidence. And so that trend line is going in the right direction. Interestingly, too, the cumulative incidence, looking at our historical data, and then compare it to this last year where we actually completed the next generation biosecurity approach across all of our farms, very coordinated. It was significantly different. So there was a significant reduction in PRRS incidence in this next generation biosecurity year that we just completed, comparatively speaking to our history. So what really worked? When we analyzed our data, how did we get down to 7.7%? Well, Dr. Karen Havas, who's a brilliant epidemiologist, she's part of our team. She did an analysis over the last couple of years, and she kind of looked at it this one way. She said, we're going to standardize all our mechanical protocols because we're auditing them. Everything's done the same across all our farms. Same transport, same supply entry, shower in, shower out, pig movement. Those are standards. There's no variation. The variables in her equation were farm location. Does that have an effect on PRRS infection? Air filtration. Does that have an effect? And then feed mitigants. Do they have an effect? So individually, do these variables have a positive effect in reducing PRRS, or collectively, do they work together? And what she's told us after she did all the statistics, that independently, all three of those variables significantly reduced your risk of PRRS virus. Farm location, as expected. If you're in a low dense region versus a high dense region, you're going to be less likely to get infected. Air filtration. She clearly showed that air filtration could significantly reduce PRRS infections versus farms in our company that were not filtered. And she showed that feed mitigation also, when applied, had a positive effect at reducing the infection. So individually, all three of those variables significantly had a positive effect at reducing PRRS. Now, what she also showed, which I think is really positive, and very interesting, she showed that these variables actually work together. There were protective interactions across these variables. For example, farms that were located in a low dense region and filtered were significantly more protected against PRRS infections. And farms that either used both air filtration and feed mitigation together, you could reduce the incidence of infection significantly. So I think that's what's really exciting, because it's kind of show that some of this stuff actually works together. So what will we do? We're going to continue to use science to make our decisions. We've got feed mitigants in all our breed-to-wean diets year-round, no discussion. They're not going to come out. They staying in. We did relocate some farms that were in really bad areas. We located those farms to areas of lower density, a subset of farms. And we're going to continue to filter everything that we build at new farms. We're going to continue to use standard biosecurity protocols, our mechanical protocols across the system, and we're going to continue to audit. We have a very rigorous auditing process where we make sure that these protocols for mechanical biosecurity are being done correctly every day. And then we're going to continue to invest in people that are involved in biosecurity-focused tasks. For example, biosecurity technicians. We've got inspectors that come to farms for surprise inspections. They check the farm to be sure things are being done right. We've got filter compliance technicians, which are people that stay on the farm and their only job is to take care of the filter system. Very dedicated, focused, biosecurity related tasks. So in closing, next generation biosecurity, we're talking revolution. I'm talking the future here. It's the future for the health of the national swine herd. We're going to continue to measure and report. We feel it's very important to be very transparent about this information because better biosecurity is better for everyone. The next step is going to be wean to market biosecurity, first generation. That's where we're going to go next. We believe that this information has changed human behavior at the level of the veterinary profession, the feed industry, and the swine industry. I think we have all the science we need to succeed. There's not much that's missing as far as information, but we will continue to learn, we'll continue to adapt, and we'll continue to share so everyone can benefit. And so my last question for you is, where are you today? Are you next generation? What's missing in your comprehensive biosecurity plan? Are you got anything set up mechanically? Do you have an air filtration system? Are you taking care of the feed risk? Where are you in that comprehensive view? Are you using science-based protocols? And can you validate compliance? Are you actually making sure that if you put a protocol in place, it's being done? So with that, Dr. Johnson, I have finished, and I think we've got some time for questions. And I do appreciate the Swine invitation. So Clayton, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Scott. We do have some time for questions. We'll dive into those. We also really encourage audience questions. So please, for those of you out there listening in, include those questions in the chat function. Look for messages from the Swine team to direct you on how to ask those questions. We'd love to bring them up as we talk to each speaker. Scott, let's start with the question you ended on. So next generation biosecurity. If I've got a farm or I've got a production system, how do I know if I'm there or not?
Well, I think your veterinarian's a good starting point because he or she should be well versed in this information. It's not really all that new. I mean, the mechanical's been around forever. Aerosols, that's like 2004 work. And then the feed is most recent, but that's even the last 8 years. That's kind of where that came. So none of this is really surprising. I think what's revolutionary about this is how we've packaged it all together and how you should think about looking at your farm, not just one level, 2 levels, or 3, but all together, Clayton. So I think that's probably the best way to answer that.
Do you anticipate, Scott, that there'll be a formal checklist associated with this so we can go through and kind of do the audit, so to say, and call balls and strikes at farms very similarly across the industry so we collectively raise that bar on biosecurity higher and higher? Or do you think it needs to be customized to each farm?
Right now, I think it's important that the farm has exactly that document and that approach, just like you've correctly outlined. In a bigger vision, though, I could see if we could somehow adapt all of this across the industry, we'd have a standardized approach. We do everything the same way. And then we would actually be able to measure across the industry, not just one company. And we could use the same document and we'd really be talking apples to apples, which that'd be wonderful if we can get there. It'll take a little while, but that's a great vision.
You know, when I think of technology, Scott, I'm not always the earliest adopter because I'm a thrifty shopper. And I have this assumption that technology gets cheaper with time, right? The latest and greatest technology today will be lower cost next year and the year after. Do you think we'll see that same thing play out with whether it's air filtration or feed mitigation technologies? Do you think that we'll see some of those technologies come down in price to help some of the adoption with farms that maybe today struggle to cash flow some of those big changes? Because not all those investments are small, unfortunately.
Yeah, great point. I would say a resounding yes. And I'll use 2 examples. One would be filter cost. In our company, we use the same type of filter across all filtered farms. So we've got tremendous buying power. And so we've been able to take the price of the individual filter unit and bring it down significantly, maybe 30, 40% reduction because we're buying in volume and we've got some power there. Same with feed mitigants. Feed mitigants are coming down in price. There's multiple options that seem to be quite effective. Some are maybe $6 a ton. Some might be $15 a ton. Some might be a little more expensive, say even $60 a ton. But those specific, those are the medium chain fatty acid blends, and they're coming down in price because the companies are doing titration studies, looking at how low can I reduce my dose or my inclusion rate per ton, which is going to have a tremendous impact on reducing cost. So yeah, this is just going to steamroll, and I think we're going to see big savings. The more that we do together, the more we think about this collectively as an industry, or the faster that'll go. So you're right on there.
Well, and I appreciate all the work you've done, Scott, to help with that, because as we get more precise with how to apply the biosecurity we need, but maybe not an investment that's above and beyond that. Your work with filters through the years to, start with, true HEPA level filters, right? And understand that, yes, that's effective, but do we need exactly that? Maybe not. Maybe there is a lower cost of entry. I appreciate all the work you've done, and particularly how you continue to share that work with the industry so that we can all collectively get better at biosecurity. We got a tactical question from Manuel in the audience. Manuel has a question about ASF and soy meal, and particularly imported soy products, which I know has been a passion of yours and a mission of yours to try and work on. Can we protect against ASF in soy products if we use one of these feed mitigants or other strategies? Is there a solution there for us?
Yeah, good question. So thank you. That person really struck a nerve with me, because, as you said, that's been something I've been working with really for 8 years now, and we've clearly shown that soy, for some reason, is very protective. ASF lives in soy at least for 30 days. It's got a half-life of 9 days, so it lives a lot longer than our original assessments actually predicted. And Dr. Niederwerder gets a lot of credit for moving that needle. She also showed pigs can get infected by eating contaminated feed too. So it's a real risk. The good news is these mitigants, I think, would have a benefit against ASF. Some of that's been published already. Some of them have been tested against ASF. And they, again, Dr. Niederwerder at the BSL-3 facility at Kansas State, and they do appear to be very effective. The formaldehyde product, the medium chain fatty acid, I recall, had positive effects against ASF. I always look at Seneca as a good proxy for stability in feed. And if something will neutralize Seneca virus, which is a great cousin to foot and mouth, I think we've got a lot of opportunity to neutralize other viruses. And that's what our work on mitigants showed, that a lot of these mitigants are very effective against Seneca. So I would assume, yes, we can also protect against ASF.
In those mills, Scott, where you've got your mitigants in place, are you adding in the holding time on ingredients as well? Do you need the belt and suspenders approach where if we forgot the holding time, we've got the mitigants, or if we forgot the mitigant in this batch of feed, we've got the holding time? Do you double down in those mills, or do you pick one strategy, focus on execution of it, and live with that strategy?
We like to be comprehensive. So what we're doing right now is everything we import from other countries goes to a company called Sam Nutrition in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Sam Nutrition has a warehouse that's dedicated for this, with a quarantine room that all the ingredients will sit for 30 days at 75 Fahrenheit. So everything coming in gets stored, and then everything then gets treated with a mitigant at the level of the mill. Because I worry about cross-contamination during the transport process, either across the ocean or, say, from the container to the mill, and then from the mill to the farm. So by having the mitigant added at the mill, you've got your material protected all the way to the mouth of the pig. So I think the combination is the best way to go.
Excellent. My thoughts would match that exactly, Scott.
Good.
Thank you very much for this, Scott. Thank you for all that you've done for the industry. And please continue the work, right? I said it before, but I mean it. Do work that matters, man. You embody that for the industry. There are so many of us that are disciples of the work you do. Thank you very much for bringing it to us.
Thanks a million, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks, Clayton. See you later.
Very good. All right, let's move on to our next speaker. That's going to be a tough act to follow, but I feel confident we've got the right person to do it. Joining us now is Matthew Rooda. Matthew grew up in Iowa as a fourth-generation pork producer. Despite his passion for pig production, Matthew was determined to become an obstetrician. So he transferred to the University of Iowa, and he ended up working in Oaknall Retirement Residence as a certified nurse's aide. And it was there that he learned about the many similarities that exist between healthcare and animal agriculture. Today, Matthew is SwineTech's co-founder and CEO, which was founded together with Abraham Espinoza and Jon Hoek. SwineTech is one of our sponsors here at the conference, and we really want to say thank you to SwineTech for being part of the Pig Revolution 2022. And I think you listen to Matthew's presentation here, you will understand his spirit for the industry, his entrepreneurial approach to providing new and creative solutions to the swine industry. Matthew, please come on up to the stage, and we really look forward to hearing what you have to say about SwineTech and how that's going to be part of the Pig Revolution.
Happy to talk with you all today about SwineTech and what we're doing to help producers across the U.S. and Canada today. SwineTech is bringing greater workforce efficiencies and individualized pig care to the pork industry by transforming the daily management of pig farm operations. So we're committed to helping producers basically navigate two things: labor and survivability challenges within their operations. And we're accomplishing this by helping teams with a workforce and swine management platform that can help them improve workplace organization, communication, and process compliance. So to give you guys a little bit of an overview, we've been able to see a significant reduction in stillborns, mortalities, and labor needs on around 100,000 sows across the U.S. and Canada today. So we jump into it here. Producers right now across the globe collectively are seeing an estimated loss of more than 550 million pigs due to a lack of timely care, disease, or various other things that are occurring. And this is leading to the waste of more than 120 billion pounds of pork. These losses are costing the global supply chain over $450 billion in lost revenues each year. And they're wasting much of our investment in our genetic potential and other equipment that we are investing in. Since the 90s, each sow is now producing twice as many pigs. The employee to sow ratio is considerably higher. Language barriers are quickly growing, and our availability of quality labor or labor in general is quickly shrinking. And as a result, we're understaffed and we're in the dark. Nearly all aspects of what is completed, who completed it, and how well it's being performed on a daily basis are completely unknown. I'm Matthew Rooda. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SwineTech, and I grew up with pigs, worked with my grandpa on his farrow to finish farm and helped my dad on the 4 2,000 head sow farms that he managed, and also served as an assistant manager of a 1,200 farrow to finish operation in Iowa. And so in my experience managing daily operations, I was able to understand the many pain points that producers are facing on a daily basis. And there's a lot that takes place in a sow farm. I personally will never forget how frustrating it was to have to rely on pen and paper and whiteboards to manage a team of employees and provide timely care for pigs. It was incredibly frustrating that I could not see live production data to help me coordinate and collaborate with my coworkers and employees. So we knew there had to be a better way. And we interviewed over 30 sow production companies. Over 25 of those were in the top 40. And over 200 on-farm employees from all over the world, mainly U.S. and Canada. And what we found was that producers lacked clarity of what was taking place in farms and how that was impacting their operations. This lack of clarity was leading to inconsistent throughput and ongoing frustration. Additionally, on-farm staff stated that poor communication and organization were the core drivers of daily stress and frustration. I think that's really important that we recognize the key things that are creating frustration, headache, turnover. It's daily communication and organization. And in summary, we found that 93% were looking for a change. And so we asked them what they wanted to see in a solution, worked with them, and then delivered what they asked for. And that was PigFlow, which is an easy-to-use workforce and herd management platform that helps pork producers maximize the potential of their operations. PigFlow works with your existing records program and assists teams to better plan, execute, and succeed together by autonomously generating and organizing daily workflows and tasks, streamlining internal and external communication, as well as alerting employees when there's an issue, such as a sow or piglet that is in need of timely care. This is made possible by using time-proven management strategies that allow managers to create and customize goals and expectations around reproductive cycles and daily events. This allows PigFlow to monitor the farm and prompt employees when a task or issue needs to be addressed. This ensures that all employees are aware of what matters most at any given time, allowing them to be efficient and provide timely and compliant care. This process gives producers greater visibility into each individual animal, enabling PigFlow to prompt managers and employees with predicted probabilities of success around each individual animal's care. So when we look at streamlined and automated workflows, they make it easy for employees to focus their time and energy on the things that matter most. And historically, we're blind to a lot of what matters most at any given time. And I'm sure if any of you have worked in a sow farm, priorities tend to shift based on what was the most important thing previously. So what I want to do is I want to share a couple videos here so you can kind of see what this looks like, this interactive, transparent workflow that drives accountability and ownership at the farm level.
One of the great features of PigFlow is Farrow Tracker. Farrow Tracker allows me to see all of the active litters that are farrowing and how many minutes remain until I need to check on them again. These expectations are also set by management. As you can see up top, we have 3 sows that are due for checkup. These 3 sows are located in room 4 and 5. If I click on that first sow, update the live born, I can indicate if I sleeve, split suckled, or gave oxy, report that, and it'll actually move down to the 15-minute mark, counting down. And it's doing that because managers specified that at-risk sows need to be checked every 15 minutes. Now, at-risk sows can be sows that have had stillborns or sows or gilts that are flagged or marked at risk based on parity or prior performance. So if we go up to room 5, crate 4, and we check on the sow that isn't at risk, and we update her, she'll drop to the 25-minute mark because she's not an at-risk sow. She's just a flagged sow. Now, one great thing about Farrow Tracker is the ability to filter by room. If I'm just checking sows in room 3, I can select room 3 and just see what I need to focus on. Better yet, if I want to see only at-risk sows, I can see all the sows that are most at risk and just focus on those if I am constrained by time. When completing a litter, I just select the litter, update the total, and indicate that the farrowing is complete. When I report that checkup, that litter will completely leave Farrow Tracker. Now, when we're updating litters, it is important that we also specify the target count of the litter. Say 16 for this case. This is important because it directly drives our next feature, which is fostering. Fostering allows us to approach pigs that need to be moved in a fraction of the time. Managers have specified the age range of pigs that we're allowed to move. And in this case, they said pigs under 48 hours of age, we are allowed to move. So I can go to the room and look and see what litters are under or over our target, or even on target. This allows me to identify piglets that are without access to teats, such as crate 3, where I have 1 extra pig, or allows me to identify sows that are being underutilized, such as gilts. I can filter this. Get rid of sows that are farrowing. Get rid of sows that are balanced. I can go in, I can figure out if I have any work to do, and also figure out if I need to make a nurse sow. So if I find this this litter here, crate 19 in room 4, I can take a pig off, and add her to crate 18. We can also look at litters to process. In this scenario, there are no litters to process, but managers can specify the age range of when they want pigs processed. Do I want pigs processed on day 3? Great. Any litter that hits day 3 of age will show up on this list. Wean very quickly. I can go into my staged litters, select the room I want to wean, see the age range, and then hit wean.
So a powerful component of PigFlow is that everyone in the farm has a device. They're all connected together through a Wi-Fi connection run through the farm, and this allows them to be in sync in every moment throughout the day on what is happening. When I check on a sow, everyone gets that update, or not necessarily an update, but knows that I don't have to go check on that animal. Or when somebody goes and tallies a room for fostering, unlike before where you might not see what's on their notepad and therefore might duplicate that process, you're aware that it's been completed and can hop right in and be effective immediately. And so with this, I think some caveats as an industry we need to know is you can lock it down, no other apps, no camera, none of the other things that could lead to distractions. You can just simplify it straight to the device. And we've seen about a 5 to 15% replacement rate that's needed from the pit monster, right? So replacement rate has been a lot better than we expected, but 5 to 15% is something to budget in there. Now, what we saw here was utilizing the predictable reproductive workflow of the farm. There's a gestation component to this and more, but we know what's going to happen more or less, and we can embed these SOPs and prompt action and behavior and measure completion and compliance. Now, there are things, though, that happen throughout the day that we can't predict. People don't show up to work. Disease outbreaks happen. An animal dies. Feed systems break. For that, we need a different type of task management. A cyclical Gantt chart isn't enough. You need a free-form, agile approach to managing those tasks. And that's why we created task management systems, which I'll show here.
If I go over tasks, I can see all the tasks due for the day. Typically, these are tasks that are not a part of the traditional flow of the farm, but rather items that need to happen to support that flow, like fixing a feed line, washing hallways, washing and folding laundry. You can see the priority status. Click in and get a description, such as feed line in room 3 of farrowing. You can start that task and complete that task. If you need to, you can filter to a particular department, such as maintenance, or you can add a task by giving it a name, a description, priority, indicating if it's recurring on a daily basis or a custom basis, or just every weekend, and assign it to a group, such as maintenance or farrowing. You can allow multiple users as well. Assign it to Ben and Adam. Add that task. We can also chat in multiple languages to help reduce the language barriers within the farm. In this scenario, I can communicate from English to Spanish and ask for help in room 3. And if I'm trying to understand what somebody said earlier, I can copy that, paste it, and translate, which says, please help me in room 10.
So with PigFlow, managers can customize and view live reports on-farm inventory, breeding, farrowing, weaning production targets, projections, herd health statuses, along with the compliance and outcomes of each employee's behaviors and actions. They can also set parameters for alerts that can be seen on the dashboard or sent to them via text or email. This empowers managers to be fully aware of what their people, processes, and pigs are doing from anywhere at any time, leading to more timely and informed decisions on what needs to be improved. PigFlow also allows for the successful implementation and management of precision technologies by ensuring that key alerts and actionable information are properly presented and acted upon by on-farm employees. So this saves everyone time, reinforces more timely care, and allows technology companies and producers to measure the consistency of use and the effectiveness of each technology. What we're really getting here is many technologies come in and work, but if we can't respond to them in a consistent way and understand how we're utilizing these technologies, we get varied ROI, which makes it very hard to put it in a bunch of barns because one farm might see something way different than the other. And so PigFlow is helping bring consistency to the utilization of these technologies, which should help improve that quality of care. Now, the benefits of PigFlow are numerous because producers and teams are now clearly on the same page and have access to the necessary resources to provide more efficient and effective timely care. The return on investment for producers is typically 2 to 1 for producers who are replacing an employee or need for a new hire due to a reduction of labor of over 1 hour per person per day. Or a producer can receive about a 3 to 5 to 1 ROI for those who are investing all of those gained efficiencies into improved pig care, which allows our producers to reduce at least 15% of their stillborn losses. As seen here, PigFlow users experience a significant reduction in stillborns, mortalities, as well as a noticeable improvement in efficiencies that have reduced the need for labor. Additional benefits have been improved time to productivity around training and onboarding, improved communication both in and out of the farm, more confident teams due to less stress, which is leading to improved retention. So some test cases and examples, we work with Dykheist Farms through their system. Joe's been a great partner with us as we have continued to improve pig flow. And one thing that we really saw with Dykheist Farms was this awesome co-opetition between the farms that was able to come about from improved transparency. Employees in the farm could now have an idea of what is going on, how are we impacting that? And they were able to do this because each and every day they were able to see live metrics on mortality, breeds, farrows, and like breeder to conception rate, which we've had for a long time, other employees in other areas are starting to finally see how their actions are making an impact. Fred Kaur, the director of production there, has big background onboarding over 100,000 sows, using basically some of the best handhelds in the industry with Porcitec handhelds. And this was next level for them in helping them communicate and ensure more accurate data, but also improving efficiencies in pig care. We also worked with Phil Horde and Horde Farms, and there we were able to see what an example could look like when you're able to not only drive accountability, but employee ownership. And one great example I love to allude to is when we got into the farm and employees were able to see what they were doing, they weren't getting 2 sows as fast as they might have thought they were. And together, without any intervention from leadership, they were able to come up with a more efficient workflow that allowed them to perform even more timely care than what was expected and see pretty good improvements in production. So by the time the manager got involved and tried to understand what we could do as a team, they already came up with ideas and things they did to become more compliant with existing processes, which allowed that conversation to not be an aggressive, what are we doing wrong? But hey, what else can we do right? And then we also work with Grandview Farms. And one of the really cool things that we found here was on the second day, the employees, the managers, they all said, hey, let's get rid of sow cards. And this was one of the first farms that we've ever had decide to do that. They said, let's get rid of sow cards. And they have gained unbelievable amounts of time that still not sure is exactly what they're saying it is, because it's a lot. But they'll never go back. They'll never go back to sow cards. They're just saving far too much time without having to have them. And as a team, they're able to collaborate more efficiently together on a 9,000 head sow farm. And it's been a great experience working with them. And so what is PigFlow here? And the onboarding process is simple. We're there to help guide you and your team through every step of the way. We absorb the stress of change. We coach around change management. And when you have identified that a farm that you would like to use PigFlow at, we'll actually send a site survey that will allow you to create a custom Wi-Fi network and allow us to put together a quote. And we'll then work with your team to connect to your existing records providers. So PigChamp, Porcitec, MetaFarms, PigNose are the 4 we work with today. And then next, our team will come into your farm to install that Wi-Fi network throughout the farm. And then we'll help the manager set up their SOPs, create roles and responsibilities for each team member. And finally, we'll spend 2 days on site to train employees and provide continued support. So that way we can absorb as much stress for the team as possible through that change. And by the end of the first day, employees are basically self-sufficient with PigFlow. And the second day, we're really there as kind of a support team to answer questions here and there. But that first day is when we're most needed. PigFlow is priced at 50 cents a sow a month, which is roughly half of the cost of an annualized employee salary. So when we look at the cost of an employee, this could help offset a need for an employee, and it costs half of an employee. And this will typically return about $20 to $30 per sow per year that first year. However, it doesn't stop there, as PigFlow really helps you refine your daily operations to better achieve your genetic potential. We did a lot of research around genetic potential. Right now, the average producer is losing $563 per sow per year due to mortalities and turnover. The 90th percentile is losing $330. So if you're looking to catch up to that 90th percent, there's that $200 plus of opportunity. And this is designed to help us continue to refine our processes so we can figure out a way to get that farm itself into that 90th percent. We're believers each sow farm is a unique version of itself. Not one answer can work for every sow farm. So we provide that tailored approach to allow them to uniquely place themselves in that 90th percentile by figuring out what works best for them. And so when we go a little further into this, we were really, PigFlow is most effective solution for optimizing day-to-day sow farm operations. Again, we're not an overall farm management like a MetaFarms or Porcitec or a Pig Nose. We are day-to-day pig care management. And we're working with producers in US and Canada and have partnered with many state universities, and we're awarded Best Product of the Year by the World Pork Expo from Producer's Choice by the World Pork Expo in 2020 and 2021. So all of this is made possible thanks to our amazing team. Our team is experienced in pork production, integrated systems management, software and hardware engineering. Our experiences prior to Swine Tech include roles with some of the most notable brands in the world, such as Boeing, Collins Aerospace, Lockheed Martin, the Pentagon, and NASA. And we're advised by Tom Stein, the founder of PigChamp and MetaFarms. Ron Ketchum is on our team as the founder of SMS and an industry leader in evaluating and consulting around swine data. And Randy Stacker, who's globally regarded as the godfather of the modern pork industry. So at Swine Tech, innovation is what we do. We believe that the only way we can predict the future is by building it together. And we ask you to join us in transforming the way that we raise pigs by offering innovative solutions that create a more predictable, sustainable, and transparent food supply chain. My question for you guys is, if you have a need for an employee and you can't find said employee, and that is becoming a migraine and a severe pain point for your operations, give us a call, give this a try, because many people are, and it's been quite effective. So I'm curious to see what questions you might have, and really appreciate everyone taking the time to hop on.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate you coming on to the stage here with us. We do have a little bit of time for questions. Matthew, you and I have had several conversations about PigFlow after the last couple of months, and I certainly share your excitement for this. I want to kick off the questions, Matthew, with a question from John out in the audience. You mentioned that this is not a replacement for Porcitec or MetaFarms or any of the record systems that are out there. And I know this can be a kind of a confusing area for producers, but could you talk to us about tie-ins with those other technology platforms? What are the other technology platforms that PigFlow can communicate with today? And what are the other technology platforms that can be synergistic with what PigFlow brings to the table in the future that you may want to tie into?
When we're thinking about this whole problem, we really mimicked it from healthcare. They have EMR, EHR systems, which is a record systems for patients, right? But healthcare has something called patient management, which is taking that information and creating usable information for people at the ground level, the nurses, the doctors, the CNAs, so that we can provide the highest quality care in a compliant way for families in the government. And so what we did was we found a way to work with records and their existing solutions that they had created for efficiently uploading data into their systems. Some systems are better than other when it comes to the efficiencies of uploading. But we can upload that, go through all their validations, get all of the data in there. I think what we found more than anything is that there's a difference between live data and real-time data. Real-time data is if we're going into records, if we don't have a live understanding of what's happening in the farm, that data isn't necessarily useful until you know everyone is out of the farm, because you're not sure what data is still yet to be uploaded. But with the live data that can come from PigFlow, you can see where are people throughout their day. Are we hitting our targets? Are we where we need to be? So it makes it a little bit more granularized. In regards to other solutions that could work with us, we're very open to talking to other precision technologies that are out there with maybe smart dosing, ventilation. Our goal is not to take all the data and store it all and be your data dashboard. Our goal is to say, if you have a need for an employee to know something, let's say a sow is off feed and you had Gestol and a sow's off feed, and you don't want them going to the dashboard to have the manager communicate that, but you'd like that streamlined to the employee with an expectation or SOP tied to it. Like, here's 5 sows off feed and how many hours until you need to check on them again. That's where we're taking that information in from various companies and making it more actionable, where it's more transparent as to what is success or failure. So that when I go home at the end of the day, I know if I won or lost as an employee, which is surprisingly really, really important.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Matthew. Thanks for bringing this wonderful tool to the table for producers. We're excited to try it out in our system, and I know many others have really appreciated what it's done for them. Thank you very much for being with us today, and thank you very much to Swine Tech for being a sponsor of this event, Matthew.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to our next speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Aidan Connolly. Aidan Connolly is the founder and president of Agritech Capital. With 30 years of experience in strategic analysis and planning, Aidan adds the innovative thinking and capital investment needed to go from possibility to reality. Aidan has worked in over 100 countries and speaks 5 languages. He's worked in political associations with state and national governments in the United States, China, Europe, and Brazil, and in international organizations such as the EU and the United Nations. Aidan also contributes to a wide range of publications in agriculture and business, including Forbes. You've certainly seen his work out there. Aidan, it's my pleasure to welcome you up to the stage and share with us your component of the pig revolution.
You can see my slides, I hope. Okay, so I will assume that you can. I am.
We can see you, Aidan. We can't quite yet see the slides.
All right. Well, then I'm going to have to kick back out. This is.
We can see your screen, your browser screen, where
right.
you're viewing. So if we can have you share a different screen, it looks like.
Can you see it now? Still not.
We see the same screen with your viewing of the StreamYard website.
Right.
And Aidan, don't feel bad at all about trying to get the screen shared. With me being a part of this webinar, I can guarantee you we were destined to have some technical difficulties, even though I am not involved in the technical side. There we go. I think we've got it now.
So clearly, as you can hear from the other speakers, thank you very much. As you introduced me, Aidan Connolly of Agritech Capital. We're in a very fortuitous position. Pork has traditionally been the most widely consumed meat in the world. However, we do face certain challenges, and I think we heard some of those earlier, in particular ASF, but obviously we've had PRRS, we've had PD virus, and we are facing also challenges in terms of continuing to improve the efficiency of production, the healthfulness of the meat that we're producing, the footprint from an environmental perspective, and even, as we heard from Matthew, some questions around labor shortages. The question I like to ask is never what does the pork industry look like in the next 24 months, but what will it look like in the next 10 to 15 years? And I think from that perspective, it's very clear that technology is going to be a very, very large part of that. We've seen other industries already being disrupted. And many times I think in the pork industry say, well, it's existed for thousands of years. What's going to really change? Do you really think that we are going to be like the taxi companies before Uber arrived? Maybe the media groups before Facebook, the banks before these online banks, the movie house before Netflix? And of course, my answer to you is absolutely, we are going to face that level of disruption, and we need to be prepared for it. We see in every aspect of humankind, innovation is accelerating, and going faster and faster. And in the same way, we might expect the same things to happen in agriculture. But actually, if you look at this McKinsey report, it is from 2015, but I've seen some recent slides that show exactly the same situation. Agriculture is viewed as being the least digitized, on a par with hunting in terms of the use of technology. And from my perspective, that just means there's an awful lot more that we can do. What should we do to make our pork production better? Well, obviously, real-time data on an individual animal basis would be tremendously valuable. Looking at the stress and comfort levels from a husbandry welfare perspective, disease management, food safety, food processing, all of these drilled down into individual level and being seen in real time would provide us, or can provide us, with the level of precision that we require for precision nutrition, precision management, and eventually precision in terms of our use of the genetic potential of those pigs. The data gaps are enormous. We know that if we run a research center, we can get performance levels 10, 15% higher than what we see in the field. We know that certain producers are far ahead of other producers. And not only that, we know that genetically, we certainly could be producing at a level, I would say conservatively, 30% above where we are today. I mean that in terms of weight, feed consumption, comfort, health, but also in terms of the environment, ammonia, carbon dioxide, the temperature, and drilling down into food safety. You can imagine a scenario whereby the information is being taken directly from the farm, being shared with the feed mill, so nutrition changing on a real-time basis, processing plant providing information back, telling us how heavy those pigs are, and all of that being connected. But if you look at the types of technologies that are out there, this is a report showing where the investments are going in general in technology. All of these, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, social media, mobile, social internet, blockchain, big data, automation, robots, immersive media, mobile technologies, cloud computing. I would say most of these, we very quickly see applications in terms of swine production today. I picked out 10 of those 30 that I think are probably the most interesting. I'm going to start with 3D printing. I think the potential of 3D printing to allow us to repair machines, to allow us potentially to repair our animals, or indeed even to save the more valuable animals, and perhaps to print meat. This is the power of what a 3D printer could do on our farms. Instead of waiting for parts to be shipped in from the manufacturer or having to hold them locally, you can imagine, particularly in countries of the world where it's more difficult to get those parts, this would really save us a lot of time, a lot of energy, and that's where the value could be. From a robotic perspective, being able to provide some device that goes up and down the house monitoring our animals could be very valuable. Observing those animals 24/7. We could see it from the perspective of cleaning the houses. They don't tire, they don't get injuries, and they're willing to do very dirty work. And the most interesting place for that, of course, is observing the animals as we go through the houses, but also from a processing perspective. I think here the investment by JBS in Scott Technologies was instrumental or instructive in terms of what is out there and the sorts of things that people are seeing as being part of the future. This is a soft robot. Some of you will have seen these at the International Processing Expo in Atlanta. They allow you to pick up delicate things like meat. They allow you to pick up eggs. So effectively, you get the strength of a robot, and then that last inches, that last mile being done by a soft robot, where we're injecting compressed air in there to make it either a hard robot or a soft robot for delicate and for tasks that also require more strength. Can we expect our trucks to be driven without drivers? I think that's certainly coming alongside electrification of our transportation systems. And whether we'll see freeways that ban human drivers or not is a point of contention. I'm sure Elon Musk has an opinion on that as well. This is the use of robots in warehouses, particularly for, in this case, picking, creating trays for delivery, home delivery of goods. Ocado is the leader in this area. They've worked with Sobeys in Canada. They've worked with Casino in France. They've been involved with most of the major grocery stores globally. And you can see the speed, the loss of waste, the accuracy. This is clearly something that we're seeing more and more. The application of drones in pigs is a lot less important than you might imagine, but I think we will find micro drones. It appears pigs do not love drones in their houses, but the use of micro drones could allow us again to shift our observation and or to engage more with the pigs in real time. I'm very excited by artificial intelligence. So the ability to simulate what we as humans do, particularly for the careers or the jobs which involve a lot more veterinarians, nutritionists, allowing us to really to upgrade those jobs and maybe to have less mistakes and mimic what the human mind, the human brain does. So problem solving, learning, constant monitoring and interpretation of what we see, proactively finding problems, but at the same time doing so in a way that perhaps humans don't. A classic example of this is the use of sensors such as cameras. I worked and was CEO of a company called Caintus, where we use this to observe cows. Here you see us looking at the cow behavior, framing it, and then describing it, either in terms of lying, eating, drinking, standing in the alley or standing in the bed. And from that, you can then interpret when feed was delivered, when feed wasn't delivered, and or characterize the behavior so that you can start to look at health aspects, sustainability, even through to animal welfare. In terms of pigs, a lot of companies are involved in this area. I know that one of them is sponsoring this conference, Asymmetrics, but we do see that the Chinese are particularly very involved in this, backed by Alibaba. The Tetu Group has been using machine vision, tail tech, clicker weight coming out of their alligator experiences and using it for pigs. Farm C out of Israel is having a lot of traction in Europe with a lot of commercial success. So again, using cameras primarily to observe the pigs, estimate their weight, and or look at their health. And I could probably have named another 15 or 20 companies in this field. This is kind of the promise of what can be achieved. You can see this slide I took from some time ago with Tetu when I visited them prior to COVID in China. And really, there's a lot that can be seen. What can be seen with the human eye can be seen with a camera, and indeed a camera can see more. Data is becoming one of those opportunities, but also perhaps a great challenge, because if we have these huge quantities of data, what are we going to do with them? And we're talking about 2.5 quintillion bytes of data being created every day just last year. It does offer the opportunity, as big data always does, to provide diagnostic analytics for animal crop health, predict what's happening in the future. But again, the quantities of data, the storage of that data, the amount of energy and electricity used to store it is quite astonishing. People say that data is the new oil, but you think about some of the oil-rich countries like Venezuela, having a lot of oil doesn't make you necessarily rich. So it's not just what we do with, not just what we have in terms of data, but what do we do with that data? It's an example of from the Everag, a group which is increasingly involved in different aspects of the food chain. You can see here them engaging during the World Pork Expo with the pork industry and predicting what's happening at market level, and then carrying that through to better decision making, not involving, as I'd call it, human decision making, but informed decision making using artificial intelligence. We also know that data can come from lots of different forms. We're increasingly finding out, as my ex-company Alltech has shown, the shifts in microflora that take place when you use feed ingredients, and how you start to analyze not just the ones that are cultured, but the ones that aren't, that can't be cultured, using, for example, PCR DTG, and then drilling into gene expression. So how genes are expressing themselves dependent upon the types of nutrients we use in the diet. So all of these flows of information from the microbiota, from the genome, from how the genome reacts to nutrition, so nutrigenomics, all of these are making agriculture more and more complex, but also hopefully starting to allow us to interpret some of the challenges that we have on the farm. I don't even know what a zettabyte really is, but I believe that we're getting close to a zettabyte. Here's defined as being 1 billion terabytes. That should be a shocking number in terms of how much of the world's energy is now going to be soaked up in storing and maintaining this information. Augmented reality is like the Google glasses, allows you to see what you cannot see with your human eye. I see it as potential in terms of finding pathogenic bacteria on the meat. I see it being used increasingly. This is an example, Clucker AR, but many examples saw in China with Alibaba's Hema grocery stores, where you have a code, a QR code on every piece of packaging of food that you wish, and that allows you to see where the food came from, the farm it came from, etc. So many examples of augmented reality, but I do think the goggles at the moment, these glasses don't seem to be very comfortable, and that's making it quite challenging. The same thing could be said about virtual reality. It's being used from a veterinarian training perspective. It's being used to teach people how to act or how to behave on farms. But it is also challenging to imagine wearing these sorts of goggles all the time. That said, McDonald's is in the UK using it to explain to consumers where their food comes from. Blockchain is one of those things which has promised a lot and so far really has under-delivered, but the ability to put all of our information on the cloud, on the web, and make it accessible to the consumer or somebody else within the chain who's going to be interacting with that pork, where they can see how the pig was raised, they can see how the pig was fed, they can see the genetics, they can see full traceability throughout the system without necessarily knowing the names and phone numbers of everybody involved. So I think that has huge, huge potential. It's based on the same technology as Bitcoin, but as I said, as of yet, we haven't really seen a compelling example of it being used. Every so often, this is an example of a turkey being sold at Thanksgiving by Cargill, using in their honeysuckle white, using blockchain as part of their traceability. The IoT is probably the most exciting one from a swine perspective. Real-time information, stress levels, water intake, you name it. And we see the numbers of Internet of Things devices increasing exponentially. It was over 50 billion devices already by 2025. Who to look for? So in this case, I'm using it more generically to also include all sorts of devices that give us information from the farm. I think that Matthew Rooda might disagree with me, but I feel Swine Tech has their devices can be considered IoT. We see Smart AHC out of Singapore, FANCOM looking for respiratory disease through early stage infections, Pigway in China, DOL sensors out of Europe. All of these allowing us to really gain insights into individual pigs or even groups of pigs and what's happening on the farm. How do you pull all of those IT devices together? I have come across this company Distinct recently that clearly is getting a lot of traction again commercially in the United States. Looking at collecting that information, they're agnostic to what type of IoT device they use, but pulling it all under one onto your smartphone or onto your smart device. From a sensors perspective, the sensor market continues to grow tremendously. $2.5 billion by 2025. Wearables are growing slowly, in my view, in the hog industry, but they can monitor movement, healthy vitals, behavior patterns. So they're very exciting as well. Number 10, cloud computing. the ability to offer the data in a manner that creates faster innovation, flexibility, and economies of scale. This again is another area which is just exploding. You see it being dominated by Amazon, but also Salesforce, IBM, Google, Oracle, all of these major groups seeing the potential for not storing the data on the farm, but storing it in the cloud. Clearly, as we've heard many times, one of the challenges of this is connectivity. Do we have 5G? Are we still stuck at 3 or 4G? But you again start to see the ways in which all of this information can be very rich. This is a group that I've also saw at the World Pork Expo, talking about how they can use data to manage the health of pigs, inform the decisions of not just veterinarians, but also the farm managers, and then to save, to be more productive, to be more efficient in terms of our pork production. And again, examples in the United States of some integrators using these types of technologies. So those are the 10 that I think are the most transformative. Which one would I pick? Quite challenging, because I think you need to look for the technologies which have been successful commercially. You need to look at the ones where you can find the phone number of a producer that you can call and hear from them directly how they've used it and why it's helped to make them money. Many of these technologies that we hear about are very hyped up. So when you start to ask questions, you realize there's a lot of discussion about what they can do in the future, but not what they're doing today. And equally, as you can see from this curve here, describing the hype cycle as being at the peak of the hype is often when there's a collapse. And then we get to something where about more or less things can become much more interesting and start to show real commercial traction. So my question to you is, imagine your swine business 10 years from now. Will it look the same? Will technology transform you? Will it transform your customers? And could disruption lead to your farm business extinction if you don't change and if you don't use these sorts of technologies? I've written a lot about this on LinkedIn. I've certainly spoken on Swine It. Had a great interview with Dr. Greiner some time ago. I'm very happy to share or answer any questions now or later. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you, Aidan. Thanks for being here and bringing that message. I think your starting point was a message we all need to remember. Disruptors are here. Don't be the discman, right? Don't stubbornly hang on to the old technology, because that's the way we've always done it. That is probably our biggest blind spot in animal agriculture. We value the generational approach. We value the way our parents did it and our grandparents did it. The reality is the consumers may not care at the end of the day. Just like with the discman, people want music and they want it to be portable. And if somebody can find a better way to bring them that, they'll go buy it. So in that spirit, Aidan, I'll put you on the spot a little bit. You touched on this with, what can producers do today? You mentioned distinct. BJ was part of our conference last year and gave a wonderful presentation on the Maya concept, the most advanced yet attainable. What is out there, from virtual reality to drones to artificial intelligence? You gave us 10 examples. Which of those do you think is most attainable for pig producers today? If you own a farm, Aidan, which of those would you go invest in today because you think it's not just part of the revolution for tomorrow, but it's attainable today?
Yeah, I'm always reluctant to say this is a good company, it's a bad company, this is a good technology, that's a bad technology. I think that once you start to ask questions about who's got commercial traction, I hesitate to say it, but you're going to eliminate 90% of what's being offered to you, maybe even more, maybe 95. I've been astonished by how difficult a question that is for many companies. I'll say, can I talk to somebody who's using it? I don't get good answers. Or I get the phone number of a researcher in Switzerland or in Ireland or some other country, and I call, So I want to see commercial traction. I do think companies, like Swine Tech, like every pig, like Distinct, these are companies that clearly are making it happen at the moment, or maybe even at a more basic level. I mentioned Everag. There's a lot to be said for the practicalities of saying I'm going to use the technology and I'm going to gain something right away. The ones that I see as being the closest, robotics clearly in the processing plants, love those. Think we do have labor issues. think we will have more labor issues, so we need to learn how to use robotics. I like artificial intelligence. It's used for it's a phrase used on a lot of different technologies, so you have to be a little bit careful because theoretically even the old smart calculators, those had artificial intelligence in them as well. But I think things that help us to make decisions faster, better, more accurately, those are obviously of great value. Sensors in general, cameras, wearables, those are coming. And some of them are further ahead than others. I would have generally said wearables, attached devices to the ear, to, in some part of, I would have said those were further ahead. But I've actually been pleasantly surprised to see how quickly cameras in the last 6 to 12 months have started making progress. When I worked with Caintus, we did some work on pigs. We were primarily focused on dairy, but the pig companies are coming. That said, there are certain challenges in pigs that are different than other species. For example, we've got 25, 50 pigs to a pen, so the camera can't see 2 or 3 pens at the one time. You need 1 camera per pen. Blockchain, a little bit further down the line. I would tend to focus on sensors, artificial intelligence, and I love platforms that allow me to see data on the farm from my telephone, make better decisions, make it more accurately, understand what my real-time profitability is. Am I short in feed? Have I got an issue with my lagoons? All of those basic things. I really, really like to see companies that understand the nuts and bolts of the hog industry and the things we can solve today that can make money today.
Very good. Thank you, Aidan. Your information embodies what we want to do with this conference and with the pig farming revolution. Thought-provoking, creative. Appreciate you bringing this information to us. Folks, that's going to take us to our morning break. Please take a few minutes, use the restroom, freshen up that coffee if you're a coffee drinker. We'll see you back here in right at 8 minutes. We will start at 40 minutes after the hour. For those of you in the central time zone, that's 9:40. Okay. Look forward to seeing you back here shortly as we continue with some more excellent presentations.
Back to time. I've been busy running my mouth dry, speaking lines about to find higher hopes and sensibilities meant for me. Let's dive in, create a problem just to fix it. The perfect fit. We're back to time, catching up on all the things we missed. So our interest. People who stand out, the faceless crowd, lost and found, picking up on the speed of sound to faster ground, moving on. I can't hold back all the new progress, what I've done best, but how about now, showing off all of the things you missed, all your interests. my baby. Top drops and raindrops, motion got me all faded. My heart got me going all crazy, and I won't be walking away. Yeah, New York in the sunshine, I'm a fool, yeah. I got love line and ooh, yeah. Got my heart out and it's covered in gold, like moonlight over Hollywood, and it's cool, yeah. 'Cause you know it's good, oh baby, we'll never get old. You got it going on, I'll be there in a heartbeat. Tell me your favorite song, I'll put it on repeat. I could wait for you forever, through the storms or any weather. Yeah, you're like New York in the sunshine, I'm a fool, yeah. I got my love blind and ooh, yeah. Got my heart out and it's covered in gold, like moonlight over Hollywood, and it's cool, yeah. 'Cause you know it's good, oh baby, we'll never get old. Aidan Connolly, driving around with my baby. Top drops and raindrops, motion got me all faded. My heart got me going all crazy, and I'll be walking away, yeah.
With frost, cold night and the winter hot cold. Sorry that I fall away sometimes. Sorry that I fall away sometimes. Yeah, yeah. The end, got to end it all on the weekend. Sorry that I feel that way sometimes. Sorry that I feel that way sometimes. Oh, oh, yeah. You don't really wanna know me. Hanging in the corner with a nosebleed. High on whatever they sold me. That's the old me, yeah. 6 years later trying to find me. Still trying to figure out the line, please. Looking for the love inside me, inside me. I don't know how I feel that way sometimes. Don't know how I feel that way sometimes. Yeah, yeah. Think how we can set out on the weekend. Funny how I kinda like this life. Funny how I kinda like this life. Don't like this life.
Welcome back. My name's Dr. Clayton Johnson. I'm your host and moderator here for the 2022 Pig Farm Revolution Web Summit. We're ready to kick off our second session, and we've got some outstanding speakers coming. It's time to put down the phone. I know you've been busy doing text messages, emails, voicemails, maybe even checking in on your PigFlow app to see how the farms are doing, but we've got some excellent content coming to you here right now. For our second session, we have 4 outstanding speakers. We have Jens Toppenberg, Dr. Ashley DeDecker, Dr. David Rosero, and Jon Hoek.
Tear me apart, tear me apart, watch it burn. Tear me apart, tear me apart, watch it burn. All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.
Our first speaker is Jens Toppenberg. Jens is the co-founder of Cloud Farms, one of our sponsors for today's event. Cloud Farms is an industry leader in swine data management. Jens began his career by spending 16 years leading sales and development. In 2010, Toppenberg had the opportunity to meet several important Danish pig farmers and discovered that they were still largely using outdated technology to manage their data. So he decided to use his experience and knowledge to create a modern digital solution to optimize pig production, an innovative pig management software driven by real-time data through an intuitive user interface. In 2013, Cloud Farms was started and now operates in over 40 countries worldwide. The most recent innovation in Cloud Farms is Pig Passport, which tracks individual animals all the way from birth to slaughter by using real-time data and traceability to connect all levels of the pork supply chain. Again, Cloud Farms is one of our sponsors for this event, and we can't thank them enough for helping us to bring the pig farm revolution to you, our audience. So please, after Ian's presentation, take some time to visit their website, find out more about their business. Jens, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the stage here to give us a presentation about your business.
I'm from Denmark. I'm the founder and managing director of Cloud Farms. Cloud Farms were established 8 years ago when I, at that time, left Oracle, where I worked for 16 years before, to take some of those technology knowledge from that sector and bring it into the pig industry to make it more efficient and productive. Since 2013, we have worked hard of bringing these technologies into the industry, and we have worked with some of the most, you can say, modern pig farmers in the world, which is really progressive and wants to improve their productions by using these technologies. Cloud Farms is an IT company, but working closely together with our customers to develop these state-of-the-art solutions. Therefore, it's very good for us to be part of this Pig Farm Revolution event here, so that we can explain a bit about how we see the challenges in the industry currently, and what we are actually doing to help the farmers around the world to solve and, you can say, face these challenges. What we see in the market and by many of our customers around is that there's a labor limitations. It's very difficult for the farmers to attract and to retain the people on their farms. Farmers need to have a strong focus on keeping or retaining their people at the farm because of the enormous cost of hiring and training people. This means that from what we see today is that there's 2 things which they need to have a strong focus on. They need to have a strong focus on making an attractive place to work, meaning that the environment around them on the farm, meaning supportive management, it's a cool place to work, they feel that it's a modern place to work, and you know, they are the people at the farm feel they also, you know, being educated. They are, you know, the second point is for the farmers to get the most out of the people they have, you can say, trained and educated. And by using technology for that, like for example, having an app where they have work lists, they have guidance how to perform different tasks, and an app where they can very easily register or enter the data from various activities in the production. So again, that the farmer or the owner of the place or the management of the place can easily follow the production results, but also ensure that the workers or the people at the farm can be educated further in areas where they are not performing well. The mobile app, or our experience is actually when we started out with cloud farms in the early days, were actually that we wanted to create an app which was very easy to use without actually getting any education in how to use it. So it's very intuitive, and there's very few steps to be, you can say, to enter data, so that you can say you avoid to enter wrong data, and you guide the person through the whole entry process as well, but in a very, very simple and a very fast and efficient way. The Cloud Farms mobile app is built for fast data entry for large farms, so that you save a lot of time entering the data. At the same time, we also validate the data at the data entry time, also again in offline mode, which means that the data quality is very high, and it also gives the farmer the opportunity to have a real-time view on their production. The Cloud Farms app is made for farms which have a multi-site setup. There can be many mobiles you can say in use at the same time, at the same farm, in different activities, and even in the same activities. Data, when they're synchronized to the Cloud Farms cloud, then data is of course validated, and if there's any, you can say, issues in overlapping data, for example, or data which you could say doesn't fit together, then we will alert the specific farm manager, who will then solve the data issue. The feedback from the Cloud Farms customers have actually been very positive regarding the app. We made a survey where we asked the farmers, compared to when they had another system than Cloud Farms, we asked them, okay, what is actually the time saved by using this very easy to use and optimized mobile app which we have. And that survey showed us that there is around a time saving of 4 to 6 hours a week per 1,000 sows which are managed at the farm. That actually releases a lot of resources, you can say, which can be used for other activities at the farm. And that has been one of the key benefits of the Cloud Farms app. Another area of focus or movement here is the animal welfare, and that's an area which is really being pushed by NGOs, governments, as well as the consumer base today. They want to know that the animals which they actually are consuming is having or had a good life. some of the sub areas in the animal welfare can be supported by using technologies. And what we are seeing here is that there's a need to be able to monitor in real time the animal production, so that you can get fast alerts if you see something which is outside the normal or outside the norm at the farm. That can, for example, be high water consumption. It can be bad movements or behaviors of the pigs. It can be high mortality rates, and it can be high, for example, abortions rates at the farms as well. Things like that we see today is very often catched at a very late stage. But by using technologies, then you can actually get more or less a real-time view on your situation at your farm, which in the end can save animals, reduce medicine usage, antibiotic usage, for example, and it can higher the animal welfare. The animals simply have a better life. The Cloud Farms app have now been developed through the last 8 years, and that means that we can more or less enter all data through the app. Even we have integrations to Bluetooth to various devices on the farms which the mobile can connect to and exchange data with. By having it all in the mobile, or the mobiles like that, the mobiles can synchronize the data ASAP to the cloud, where all the data will be collected in one place. We don't have to go through a local PC or a local instance and then afterwards to a cloud, where there can be a lot of synchronization issues on the way, data issues, where in Cloud Farms we have a clean structure, data is only in one place. A huge part of our customers are actually using our real-time monitoring in the way that they put up a big smart TV like we have here, where they have the data coming in and updated in real time. So an example, you are out doing servings, you are out registering fairings, you have registered some feed consumption, you for example registered some dead pigs in various sections of your farm, and as soon as the mobile gets into to have a Wi-Fi or 4 or 5G connection, the data is synchronized. And actually at that time, the data is changed on the flat screen, meaning when they then are coming into the office and they're having the daily coordination meeting where they sit and you can say evaluating the current situation on the farm, then they don't need to wait for entering data into a system and run a report. It's there. They look at the production results, which means that already at that time they can go out after the coffee break and start working, solving the issues they have seen. And we have many customers who do that. They went from having a big whiteboard they wrote. We have customers which have a big whiteboard where they wrote weekly the production results. Already at that time, it's a week-old data. In Cloud Farms, you don't need to do that. You have it minute by minute. You have it day by day. You have it week by week, and you can compare your current daily results to the day before results or to the week before and so on. So you can all the time see, are you on target or are you not? That also brings us back to the animal welfare. That's a way to monitor the welfare of your pig, to make sure that they are having a good life. Cloud Farms is able of managing individual pigs from birth to slaughter. That gives the farmer many benefits, and the animals as well. You can monitor each individual animal. You know what you have treated the animal with before. You know where it's born. You know what have been eating. You know what treatments have got. You know what locations have been in on the farms and so on. How you move it around, and that actually gives you another of the, you can say, the third area which we have to talk about, and that is the food safety area. The food safety area is very closely also connected to the animal welfare. In the food safety area, by having an individual tracking of the slaughter pigs, gives you exactly that opportunity that the farmer can sell his pigs with a pig passport. The pig passport is exactly describing what is this pig, where it have been born, what genetics it is, what have been eating, where it have been in its life, what treatments have got of medicines and so on the way, as well as what illnesses have that pig had. When the farmer sells these pigs, then they're actually able to sort them and get, you can say, categorize its pigs into various categories, which they actually can sell as a premium product. We see that some of our customers, and I can here mention, for example, Swissac, which we're working closely together with, they are monitoring each individual slaughter pig from birth to slaughter. Food safety is something which have always had a strong focus, but we have not been able to prove it. There really been not there's not been an easy way to prove what is actually you are eating. So in Cloud Farms, we have worked closely together with some of our customers to create what we call a traceability platform. The traceability platform gives our customers the possibility to track each individual batch going through the supply chain and record all the needed properties for these batches. That sounds very theoretically. Let me give you an example. Let's say you have individual pigs like I just mentioned for Swissac. So you have each individual pigs. Some of them you treat with antibiotica, others you don't. All this can be recorded in our traceability solution, so that when you have the pigs coming to the slaughterhouse can sort the pigs as raised without antibiotica or raised with antibiotica pigs. So already at that time you can start sorting your product into various categories, which you can then sell as premium products in the retail. One of our key customers, Good Valley, here in Europe, are using the Cloud Farms traceability solution. They're using that for registering or documenting data related to batches all the way from a field, which is harvest, till you have a final product, a sausage, a piece of meat from their slaughterhouse. The fourth area which the farmers are facing is the environmental regulations. It's not even the regulations; it's also the consumer expectations from the farmers. I mean, how can the farmers actually produce pigs which are more environmental friendly produced? How can they do that? How do they actually know if they are environmental friendly today? Are they having a bigger environmental impact than the neighbor farm or not. They don't know about that. Cloud Farms is working closely together with the BASF Animal Nutrition Group, which have developed a great and very unique product, Optenics, which actually can help the farmers in real time to understand the environmental footprint. The Optenics solution is fully integrated to the Cloud Farm system today, which actually gives our customers the possibility to calculate the environmental footprint on various parameters, for example, on CO2, water consumption, land use, and so on, for their production. After you have done the correlation analysis and you have looked at that and you have optimized that and you have got the value and the benefits out of your data you already have, I mean, you have really squeezed the grape and got all the juice out of it, then the next step I would do would be to look into what other data should I or can I collect at my farm to optimize further. And that could be, for example, sensor based data collection. It could also be other data collected through the mobile in the production, which you don't collect today. And that's very much depending on, again, what are the key challenges you have on your farm? What is it you want to look at? Do I have high mortality rates? Do I have high feed conversion, or what it is? And based on that, then you would say, okay, then I need additional information, I need additional data to be collected to be able to make new analyses. And in that case here, Cloud Farms is a strong partner for you because we're very open to extend and to collect additional data. And we do that with a lot of our customers. I would also like to thank Swine for the opportunity they give us to present today, and for Swine's, you can say, bringing in modern technologies to bring out messages to the pork industry. It's quite cool. We like that.
Thank you very much, Jens. We'll bring you up to the stage now for the question and answer part of it. We've actually got a question from Dr. Rebecca Robbins out in our audience. So Rebecca, hello from all of us here in the studios. Rebecca asks a similar question that I was going to ask you, Jens. With Pig Passport, we have traceability. Okay, is that driven primarily from the retailer who's selling our pork to the customer, or is it driven from the packer who's selling it to the retailer, or is that a regulatory driven component? Can you talk to us about what are the drivers for the producers and countries that are using that? Who's driving the implementation of that technology with Pig Passport? And then if you could, there's value that's created. So if you could share with us, how does the value get shared in those models today? Does it get split amongst the supply chain, or is there one part of the supply chain that captures the majority of that value?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Actually, what we see today is that it's a push or a push from the producers, which would like to make, you can say, differentiate their products into premium product categories and therefore get a higher price for parts of their production. It's also a way for them to justify that, for example, if they want to have higher animal welfare, it requires more investment, and therefore that's a way for them to get a return on that additional investment. So today we see it a lot from the pig producers that they try to push this. Actually, we see it also from the larger integrators that they would also like, which have both, feed mills, slaughter plants and processing plants as well, and finished products, that they also would like to differentiate their product throughout the full supply chain here. So that's currently what we see. Yeah.
Very good. Jens, as we think about production data, It helps us with precision agriculture on the crop side to get real production data from the crop producers and then look at the situation the producers are raising the crops in. It's artificial intelligence or data mining, if you will, to understand the actual outcomes and the actual inputs. And then that helps us to value future inputs because we can predict the outcomes. Do you think with animal agriculture, there will be an opportunity for producers to use this in aggregate, to use the data collected through cloud farms or any other mechanism and put their data sets together to help us collectively make better decisions by looking at the variety of pig production situations and correlating that with the differences in performance outcomes that we see on our farms?
Yes, for sure, for sure. And that's actually the same we just heard from the speaker before as well. I think there's a lot of new technologies being brought in, sensors, cameras, microphones, and so on into this, you can see it into our industry. But it's still only on a research level, and that's the same which we experience. We are also working together with some of these, you can say, providers here. And you know, I think that the strange or a lot of the value is in that you can combine sensor-based data collection together with the pig production data, and if you can combine these two, then you can make some magic. But we are not there yet, but we will be, and we are really working strongly in this area as well.
Very good. How about the reporting side, Jens? Technology has come available to producers in the form of Tableau and Power BI and many other software programs that may be available through your current Microsoft subscription or something like that. Now, I am sure that Cloud Farms has its own reporting functions through your database system. Do you think producers should rely on their records program, should rely on Cloud Farms for the future of data reporting, the information that goes on the smart TVs in the farm, like you described? Or do you think producers should look at those technology supplements, so to say, like a Power BI, like a Tableau, that allows you to customize reports that are specific to your system or even within your system to different farms?
I think it's a combination. I think that the farms themselves should have, you can say, standard reports which they understand, where they understand that KPI and what does that mean to my production. And then actually what we see is that to make these more advanced reporting, correlation analysis, and so on, in some cases the farmers themselves are not educated enough to understand what that means, and therefore they bring in, vets or special advisors for these areas. But I think that it's definitely, we're moving into to be able to optimize even further in the pig production for sure, and therefore we need these more specialized kind of reporting.
Like Aidan shows us, if we continue to be on technology adoption at the level of hunting, we're probably not going to make much progress as an industry.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Jens. I appreciate you being with us. I wish you a wonderful afternoon on the other side of the pond. And we're going to go ahead now and transition to our second speaker for the second part of our module here. Joining us for this presentation is Dr. Ashley DeDecker. Dr. DeDecker grew up on a third-generation pig and grain farm that belonged to her family right close to where I'm at in West Central Illinois. Ashley received her BS in animal science from Southern Illinois University in Carbondale in 2006, and after her PhD in swine well-being at the University of Illinois in 2011. After that, she began her career with Smithfield Foods. Currently, Ashley serves as the Director of Production Research for Smithfield Hog Production. Dr. DeDecker conducts applied research in all disciplines on swine production, including feed manufacturing, nutrition, well-being, reproduction, management, performance, productivity, animal health, and meat quality. Now, the pig industry is a small place, and if you're from Illinois in the pig industry, we all probably know each other. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Ashley for a little while now. I think you're all going to enjoy her messages just as much as I do. Please join me in welcoming Ashley up here to the main stage to share her thoughts with us on the 2022 pig farm revolution.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Johnson and Swine. I appreciate the invitation. There's been a lot of good speakers already, and I'm the one that's gonna get the opportunity to talk with all the challenges. We've spent the morning talking about all the fun and exciting things that are coming into our industry, and now I get to be the cynical one that says, hey, here's the challenges with actually using them. But I'm going to try to make it somewhat fun, so it's not too cynical. Here. So we start thinking about how technology progression has worked in the swine industry, and Aidan's graph showed it perfect, or his table, where we're right in line with hunting when it comes to implementing technology. But it kind of shows that we've been desperate for technological help to make tasks more automated or simpler, and now they're here, but we're being overwhelmed with them and finding excuses why not to change them. And I think all of us are kind of coming up with some of those excuses why we couldn't implement them in our farms or put them in our farms. So I'm going to probably go through today a lot of those excuses that we've been using, that everyone's been using, as to why we haven't implemented some things. But some of these pictures probably relate to you in a sense of like, hey, I have this new tool on my farm, but I haven't been properly trained. I don't know what to do with it, to the point of, okay, I've got the technology, I'm learning how to use it, but today it's not working. You know, that feeling when you just want to like throw your computer against the wall. But it seems like today, and a couple of the other speakers alluded to it, is we are being, as a producer, just overwhelmed with the amount of technologies that are coming our way at this point. Which is why I get to that last picture with the woman holding multiple phones and apps and looking like I don't know what to do. And that's almost how I feel sometimes when I have so many different tech companies coming at us and with these different technologies. It's exciting. It is super exciting. But I remember I'm a pig scientist, and trying to understand how do I quantify the ROI of a technology and how we can get the value out of it is our biggest challenge. And in Smithfield, being a vertically integrated company, we have quite a story to tell, and talked a lot about traceability. And I saw the question from Dr. Robbins about where is that request or where is that value coming from the customers or the retailers. But if you look through our chain here of our vertical integration, all the way from the grain farm to the partner transport, getting the product out to the restaurants or to the grocery stores, there is a lot in between there. There's a lot of transportation, a lot of hauling, a lot of processes, and being able to track all of those things, there is value to that, and in different aspects of the business. But it's also our responsibility to try to make sure we are tracking that information, and part of our business model. We must continually try to innovate to make our operations more sustainable. And we're always searching for ways to use our company and plan its resources more wisely, and taking this vertical integration approach. So data management on farm today, I don't think anyone can argue is outdated. I know I go into a farm and the first thing I'm handed is a tiny little notebook and a pen, right? I get my safety my glasses, my earplugs, and I get a notebook and a pen. And that's what we still do today, and that's what every person on the farm is walking around with. Doesn't mean it's right, but it's our comforts. And so we still use paper records that must be filled out daily, but we're not actually entering that information into a data system that's usable information, maybe weekly and sometimes monthly. So even though that data is recorded on a daily basis on a piece of paper, it doesn't mean it's being transferred to being used as usable information to make a decision or to decide that we need to treat animals or anything else potentially a week later. So there is potential data loss. It's real. You know, if it's on a piece of paper, how many times did you drop your notebook in the pit, or you left it somewhere and a pig ate it? Errors in recording, old phone, old computer systems. There's a delay in reaction, and real-time information use, and extra time at the barn level. And I'll kind of show you an example of just how much extra time it takes to truly just record all the information that we need to do besides the task that's at hand. So we really do need real-time data to manage the well-being and inputs of our pigs, especially our veterinarians. How are they supposed to make decisions on animal health if they don't know that there's a problem unless they wait for a phone call. Daily medication, mortality, water intake, feed intake, those are the first signs that there's something wrong and that we need to intervene. But how do we get that information in a timely manner? So the example I wanted to show, and I hope this works, is how much time does it take to cross-foster a pig? And so the gentleman in the video, I hope it's working for you guys, is doing a pretty simple, normal routine task of, I gotta move one thing from here to here, and thankfully we can just move it right next door. And the act to actually moving the pig, seconds. How much time does it actually take to record the data? So you have to write on the original, the birth sow card, -1, and the reason. Then you're going to go to the next crate, pick up that sow card, write +1 on there, and then you're probably going to put it in your notebook because he wants to know probably where he moved that pig to. So it's typically taking at least double, sometimes triple the amount of time to record the information rather than just doing the act itself. So all of this takes up so much time, and that's critical when we're in a situation with labor shortage as we are now. So there are lots of applications out there that really excite us, excite producers, because we've identified we're spending a lot of time just simply writing down information multiple times. We're being redundant. We're not using it in a timely manner. So how can we get the information faster? It's more user-friendly. As you can see here, we've just heard from Cloud Farms. We've heard from Pigflow, from Rooda. There's lots of ones out there today that we're interested in evaluating, but it's hard to figure out how do we evaluate them, because the first thing I'll say is, sure, I'm into research. I want to test these new things. I want to see how they're going to provide value to my system. But connectivity is the biggest hurdle to overcome. So just because I like the technology, I think it looks great. Oh, by the way, our farms are in pretty remote locations. You can see the farms that we have there on the East Coast, but that doesn't even touch our farms in Colorado or Utah, where they're in a dead zone in a valley, and we have no connectivity whatsoever. So that's typically one of our biggest hurdles is we want the technology, we want to use it, we're eager to have it, but we don't have the basics of what is the basic platform or structure to even test it. So because of that, we don't have systems in place to pull store data. We don't have dashboards and flagging systems in place to prioritize needs. It limits us from even being able to test these things on a small scale basis. But wait, there's even more hurdles than connectivity, but you'll probably hear me say connectivity over and over again when it comes to challenges. Another challenge with implementing technologies on our farms is how do we quantify the value? Part of my job in Smithfield is being able to quantify or turnover expense, whether it's for a vaccine or for it's a feed additive or if that's process change. Being able to objectively quantify what is that return. This gets a little more complicated when we start talking about evaluating technologies, just because the cost starts to add up just to evaluate it. So I'm no longer just talking about the technology itself. I have to add in the connectivity hardware, putting in cradle points, the connectivity service, annual subscription, the cost of the tech devices itself. So now I have to get phones or tablets, the cost of the tech service, the dashboard itself, the data storage. Then we also have the obviously cost of data security and risk management. Where is the data going to be stored? Who's it going to be shared with? There's lots of confidentiality, NDA agreements that have to go in place before we can even talk about transferring all the data. And you think about, oh, it's just a simple little evaluation, a pilot study. Well, we've got to go through all of those hurdles before we can even do a small one farm pilot study to try to understand the value of that. And from there, once we get all those structures in place, then we have to understand the variables to determine the value generated. So for some of those technologies like Pigflow or an application that would help, in this case, reduce the amount of time and let our people do more pig husbandry versus being data recorders, how do we record or determine what the value would be? Is it a labor savings? Are you going to reduce staff, or are you redirecting tasks? In a lot of situations, we're already short-staffed. We're running at an 85% capacity of employees, so it's not like we're going to be reducing any staff. Or are we redirecting their tasks? So we're making the assumption that if they're spending less time recording data, that they're going to spend more time saving pigs or pulling pigs or doing something that is obviously going to have an impact on productivity. And so those are assumptions on assumptions, and those are really hard to quantify. The other thing, obviously, is improved pig performance. Wean pigs out the door, wean weight, average daily gain, feed cost reduction. Those can be difficult to prove objectively in the situations with technology, as we're monitoring a tool that's coming in the farm, and it may be being applied to the farm itself, not necessarily a room or an individual. And so what's my experimental unit that I'm going to be assessing to determine that? An example would be robotics versus a data management ROI like PigFlow or like Cloud Farm or Pertua or something like that. We just recently had our first Smithfield Tech Summit and had a bunch of our production members in the room, and we kind of had like quick speed dating with tech companies and said, you got 10 minutes, give us just the understanding of what it is. And so that we could kind of evaluate where we thought the biggest high potential value projects would be. And every single time a robotics situation was what came to be the number one perceived highest value, because we could help in our minds quantify the ROI much easier. So for an example of that, labor shortage, as I said, is driving a demand for robotics and technology, ones with quantifiable ROI. Truck drivers is one of our biggest challenges right now, is finding truck drivers, especially in the fall when we're going to be needing to feed pigs, getting enough truck drivers to make sure we're getting the feed to the pigs. Truck washing, it's a job no one wants to do. Power washing is another job no one wants to do. So those are things that are, well, at least truck washing, power washing for sure. How can we use robotics? And those are easier to say, yeah, I feel comfortable with that because I can quantify the ROI that the people don't want to do these jobs to begin with. There's a biosecurity benefit, improved health benefit, and we can do a labor savings situation that way because no one wants to do the job anyway. Feed milling, we're losing a lot of skill sets with people understanding how to manage or run a feed mill. I'm one of them. I have no idea how to run a feed mill, but there's not as many people out there today with that skill set being able to do that. So it's not just the people on the farm, it's all the support operations that go around running a farm as well, of where we're needing a lot of that help, including our veterinarians with telemedicine. With COVID, veterinarians can't go everywhere. I wish we had a teleporter that we could just teleport them to a farm when we need them. But we need to use what has been adopted during COVID, which would be telemedicine as well. And how can we use either body cams or GoPros or the Google glasses for our veterinarians to be able to virtually walk through a barn and be able to diagnose what's going on. Traceability is another area. We like kind of mentioned from the vertical integration system, the feed ordering, biosecurity. We want to know where people are going, where trucks have been, where are they going, what was the cause of a health break so we can prevent that from happening. Medication usage. From a reporting standpoint, product tracking, item identification, time tracking of our people as well, document management and marketing. And so one simple example is how can we use QR codes for biosecurity? And so today, typically people come into our farm, or a visitor will come to our farm, and the manager has to be there and fill out a form that asks you, where have you been for the last 3 days? Are you willing to adhere to our biosecurity policies? Instead of taking the farm manager away from being on the farm with their people, can we have a QR code that you scan at the front gate that asks you all the same questions and then allows you access or denies you access based on that? So I was like, I can do this. Okay, I'm not a tech person by any means, but I think I can figure this out. So went into Google Forms, made a quick Google form that just copy pasted from our entry form and put it in there. And the next thing I know, someone comes out to the site and they're like, oh, we don't have any Verizon service out here at this farm. So we come back to connectivity issues. Great concept. I think it'll work for people who are local out there, but any other visitor that is running on Verizon at this specific farm, it is not going to work. So I'm going to take us back to one of the main challenges is connectivity, as well as compatibility. What do you mean I have to enter it twice? So when we say, hey, we want to test this new app out on the farm, but we're going to have you continue to record it the old way, because it's not compatible with our current data platform, and you still have to enter it into Pignose or PigChamp, MetaFarms. So you're going to have to do it twice. And then are we really getting accurate information or feedback from the farm staff themselves on if they like the technology, because we're making them do twice as much work? So making sure that these technologies are compatible with existing platforms or one-stop shop, because redundancy is going to cause more inaccurate information, data quality challenges, issues, more time to enter the data, employee frustration, and unreliable feedback on the true value of that application. So we're also getting a lot of what I call one-trick pony technologies, and then some frustration we're getting from the farm staff is, you want me to test all these different apps and they all do something different. So now I have a handheld or a phone on my farm that I can use, and I have like 15 different apps. One for feed bin levels, one for feed ordering, one for farrowing management, one for lagoon levels, one for temperature, humidity, another one for water flow. Why can't it all be on one platform or one dashboard? And so thinking of a fully integrated, instead of more of a one-stop shop than a one-trick pony technology. But wait, there's more. I know I'm sounding like the cynical person here about technology. I don't want you to think that I'm that way, but there are some challenges as well. I think a lot of us are data rich and information poor. I think a lot of people have said that. We need technology, we need tools to use the data to make better business decisions. We struggle with putting together our pig flows, still using Excel spreadsheets or even whiteboards to try to figure out, okay, these pigs are going to they're weaning on this date. I have this many open sites. The capacity fits here. No, I can't put them there because of this health status. I got other pigs moving here. We're still using spreadsheets and whiteboards to figure out where our pigs should be flowing, and we should be way beyond that at this time. We need to be able to make the best business decisions and using predictive modeling over which feed mills to feed which farms, marketing schedules, to make big decisions like that. There are technologies out there, LlamaSoft, Swarm, Coupa, Accenture, all are some of those platforms that can do that predictive modeling for you if you don't have it in-house. Other constraints to consider: does production want it? There's been times I've taken a technology or a tool out to a farm and it's like, not interested. And then you have other people who are like, yes, I want it desperately bad. And so you really have to ask yourself, is this something that's wanted? Or, because if I'm trying to test something, it's going to fail if it's not wanted. There is some resistance to change, and it's inherent in all of us. To say that I like my little notebook and I like my SOW cards, please don't take them away from me. Do you have the IT support to implement some of these things? Going back to just connectivity. Can you get connectivity? Can you get Cradle points? Can you get what you need to test these things in collaboration from your IT support? There's going to be learning curve for users, and that's going to vary significantly based on the people in your farm. Language constraints, as I mentioned, labor shortage. People are already short-staffed and they've already got tons of things. They've got 20 items they have to do that day, and they have to make decisions which 5 are they going to get done. I don't have time to test a new tool as well. I'm barely getting by. And infrastructure requirements. A couple of the tools we've looked at said, yeah, well, I need the ceilings to be 8 foot high in order for this to work. Well, our standard ceiling height is 7.5. I can't change all of our barns to accommodate this tool. That's not going to work either for us. So with that said, hopefully I'm done being super cynical because I don't want it to sound that way, but we do desperately need these technologies. The light at the end of the tunnel, the rainbow after the storm is we want them. We need technologies. We're desperate for them. We need to keep an open mind that our old methods may not work for them. We're trying to play catch up to the rest of the world. Very well said, as the table that Aidan showed. We're right in line with hunting at this point. And we need to try to embrace this change and not resist it, and potentially think of alternative methods to quantify the ROI than what we've done in the past. So thank you for your time. This kind of comes to my mind because if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. And sometimes I feel like I'm crawling, but whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. So even if we're not making the huge leaps and bounds that we want to, baby steps will get us there as long as we keep moving forward with integrating technology in our farms. So thank you, Swine, for having me. Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for hosting. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Ashley. Thanks for the information. Thanks for the realistic look. Thanks for representing the farm side of these wonderful new technology solutions that we want to bring to the farms. Sometimes the farms aren't ready for it. For the audience, please continue to put your questions into the chat function. We want to get your feedback and look forward to sharing those questions with our speakers. Ashley, we've got a question from the audience about data integrity. Let's look at your cross-fostering example, okay? We know today that the paper records on farm are horribly inaccurate when it comes to fostering, okay? You can count pigs at any farm in a litter, and it's not gonna match the card every time. Do you think with technology solutions that the data integrity on something like that is going to get better, going to get worse, or could be either one?
I think at first it's gonna be far worse. Until we can get it figured out, just get over that learning curve. And then I think there is potential for it to get better. Yes. But I think we're going to have to get through that storm before we can see that rainbow when it comes to data integrity. But you're right. Sow cards are not accurate information. So how do we make it more accurate by making it easier and putting in like, hey, this can't be right. I like some of the features and some of the tools where it says inaccurate information. If you can't cross foster from this genetic line to this genetic line and you're entering the sow and it should say, ding, you can't do this, hopefully it's going to prevent some of those inaccurate information or inaccurate data features that we don't have today.
You know, Ashley, we're tight on time, but I can't help myself. I got to ask you one more question. We talked last year at this event about the need for a smart farm, if you will. And even if that's just a pilot farm within your system, right? You have to be aware of these technologies so that you're an early adopter of the best ones. You've got farms of all shapes and sizes from the Eastern time zone to the Mountain time zone and even beyond that, I know. What do you look for in an ideal farm situation to be that pilot farm for a new technology? Say Swine Tech, Cloud Farms, any of our sponsors here come to you with a new technology and you're interested. What are the characteristics of the pilot farm to get a good evaluation?
That's a great question because I'm doing that right now, actually. The main thing I'm looking for is the people in the farm. Do they want it? And it's not, IT is going to have to figure out to make connectivity happen anywhere. So that's going to happen no matter what. I need to have people who are willing to try it first. If they don't want technology, I can promise you whatever I bring in is going to fail. So I'm looking for staff that has an open mind, is eager to try new technology, and is hungry for it. That's the number one thing I'm typically looking for, regardless of location, connectivity, all of those other things. Those are going to be hurdles everywhere we go. It is, but for evaluation, I need to have open-mindedness.
Yeah. If you force it on somebody, you probably can already define the outcome that's going to come from that pilot of that technology.
Exactly.
Very good. Thank you, Ashley. Great to see you. Look forward to chatting with you again at the future. We're going to move on now to our third presenter here in the second session. Joining us for the next talk is Dr. David Rosero. David is a senior nutritionist and a technical leader at the Hanor Company. He oversees the nutrition program, the research and innovation efforts, and recognitions for his research include Emerging Scholar Award from the American Society of Animal Science and a Research Innovation Award by the National Pork Board. We want to thank Asymmetrics, our sponsor, who is bringing us Dr. David Rosero to the main stage today. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Good morning. It is a great honor for me to be here and to participate into this wonderful event once again. I appreciate very much the invitation for this session. Appreciate very much your time. It is my intent to present real cases of and illustrating few of the many benefits that the computer vision and the smart cameras have into our pig farms. This presentation has been prepared with the collaboration of one of our closest friends in the smart farming, the Asymmetrics team, as we keep unlocking the power of computer vision and the implementation of smart cameras into pig farms. So we live in a world that has become smarter as it has embraced more and more the Internet of Things and the use of the data through the digital transformation. This is a personal example in the use of those sensors in my watch, in my phone, to get to know me better so that I can train for longer distances and go for faster paces. As we are able to gather so much data using these training gadgets, we had to learn deeper about ourselves and our environment. In this example, I got to learn myself more about my lung and my heart capacity so that I can be more precise in the pace that I run a race, in the nutrition that I take, and the hydration that I use. So now let's think about that. Let's take a smart farm and the gadgets of it. Let's imagine that you can track the performance of pigs, a group of pigs, or many barns in your operations. And then your gadgets are going to provide you information on the environment of those pigs and the access to water, and then the access to feed. And say, when you're tracking that performance and water intake has gone wrong, and the system alerts you to take a corrective action, and that prevents you from going different from your projection. And the next time comes and temperatures is outside of the range, and you're able to correct that on time so that at the end of the day, you achieve the performance that you projected for. So now let's think about that power of the computer vision. Think about what the potential are for counting pigs and understanding the behavior of animals. Think about a camera that can detect the movement and the walking of sows and gills and relate that to a leg and feet structure. All of that is happening. Now, and for us in this question that we came 4 years ago, we asked if the size of the pig can be a predictor of the weight of the pig. So we sit down with a very group and innovative team, the Asymmetrics team, seeking to their help. So the answer was yes, it is possible. You can watch, the camera can watch a pig or a barn or a pen of pigs and can determine with accuracy the weight of those pigs. Think about the potential that has into our barns. And that's what we thought 3-4 years ago when we started the project. By us to get to know how our pigs grow over time, day by day, it was going to unlock so much potential. So when we came and sit down with their group, we understood that a camera is not just what you place into the barn. but more importantly, what's behind that camera. What is that development? So there's need for a great team that knows about computer vision, artificial intelligence, data science, the software development, especially those that understand the animal and the science behind the animal, right? And that's what we saw about this team. And we saw the same approach across very new innovative companies in the industry. They are assembling the right team to unlock that power and computer vision on sensors, Internet of Things. For us and for this exercise, that's what we saw asymmetrics for. So we came and challenged them, and we asked them to provide us a robust camera that can be easy to implement into a commercial barn, that can be robust, that can last for a long time, right? And then we start measuring three key components that we will ask about the camera. How accurate is the camera? How reliable, meaning if the camera is to show me a data every day, how many of those times will I miss data? And then in the end, ways to implement and to put in a large scale system. So in our experience, this is what our expectations are. The camera has to be able to measure and estimate the weight of the pigs with at least 97% of accuracy. 98% of the times, you expect that data coming back to you. There's going to be, it's not a perfect system. You're going to have internet problems. You're going to have cameras that go with electric problems. But when you take all in account, you expect at least 98% of the times having access to that data. So this is our data. This is our most current data from March to June of this year. And this is measuring the accuracy when we compare the camera estimation of the weight versus the weights that we measure in the research barn. Notice here in the barn, in the two rooms, we had above 97%, almost 98% in average. So this is great. This is exceeding our expectations. And then when we go by the different dates, we're able to see that very few instances, there's an error in a pen or two that have exceeded that 5%. Overall, we're hitting to a 98% accuracy. Our value is not very different to what our researchers have measured. This is a comparison of weight and methods of weight estimation done at the North Carolina State University by Dr. Jon Hoek, when he compared scale weights versus human estimation of that weight, a walk across the scale, so allowing the pigs to go freely across the scale. And then the pig vision, these cameras that we're putting on the ceiling. And we're 97% accurate relative to that weight. So the second aspect, key one for us, is reliability. So this is an uptime measurement of the daily weights for all the cameras. So what is the percentage estimated weights that are reported daily versus the expectation? Our expectation is that for every camera, there has to be an estimation of the weight every day. In this last cycle that we measure, the average was 98.6%, exceeding the expectation. So we have answered the accuracy and reliability of the technology. Our third question is the implementation of it. And that's my intent today, is to present real cases where we're starting to implement the technology. So let's take the revolution into action. This is the barn that we dreamed 4 years ago for research purposes. At the same time, we wanted to equip the barn for smart technologies. So let's go to Iowa. Let's go to our barn, our research barn. And imagine that barn now that is put in place. We have we have installed cameras and we have the capacity to measure weight every day in the pens where we have cameras, and the temperature and humidity, the environment around those barns. This comes the first application of that technology is for us to evaluate. You have the power of measuring and estimating the weight of the pigs every day. That has to have so much value for your system. So this is a case one, and it's called a fine tuning of the diet, one of the diets. So this is a system that was monitoring 15,000 pigs divided in 15 different groups. And the system has 36 cameras at the time, 12 cameras in each of the barns. What it became when tracking the performance of the pigs, what it became very noticeable was that deviation from the target in the third phase. At the time, they measured a deviation of 74% from the expected gain. They start playing with nutritional interventions, and they recover 5.4 pounds in average for the pigs. For their economics, are they financially, and the time they measure, it represented about $1.82 per pig. That has to be so much value when you apply that to 40% of the company sites. This is a different case, is where a disease was detected on time. So we have very similar performing barns that are being tracked, that they have difference between them because of the management, location, who knows, right? There's variation into the field. But then you're tracking those two over time. Sometimes, and if you react to it, you will see differences. It came to a point where the system signaled a difference. The people monitoring the growth curves, they noticed something different into the curves. And then by investigating that day, that precise day, they were able to intervene. They detected a disease. They apply an intervention. And then at the end of the day, that group of pigs compensated of the disease because of the intervention, we believe, and then got very close to the barns that are very, very similar performing. For the company, they valued this at $4.80 per pig. So think about this. Think about the ability for you to project the weight of your pigs, but then in the field, monitor every barn and every day, and then the system will alert you when then something goes outside of the range, something goes too different from what you expect you. So then you can take an action and avoid losing that performance. A second case here for us, and very valuable, is the implementation of the cameras for a precise marketing. So this is having a more accurate way to sell our pigs in the best time at the right weight. For us, key aspects of our marketing program are: we have to be able to estimate the first time of our sales, because that guides the next times of the sales. And then the second aspect of this is being very precise in selecting the pigs we're gonna sell. So to precise timing on the sales, we use a target growth curve, but this growth curve doesn't apply for all the pigs in the barns, right? You will understand how much variation there is side to side, flow to flow, and then pig to pig, pen to pen. One growth curve cannot predict the growth of a lot of pigs into the field. That's where we say, let's challenge the camera and the Peak Vision team, because it's not just by estimating the camera, it's by especially by the data science team in taking that data and putting it into action, right? So we asked them, let's go into a barn where we can put the cameras on. And then let's guide rooms 1, 2, and 3 per our program. Let's use our prediction equations to start selling the pigs. And let's allow room 4 be guided by Peak Vision. So this is a commercial farm in Iowa where we place 6 cameras per room, and it was monitoring 4,800 pigs, or 1,200 pigs in each of the rooms. What you can see in the graph is that is the percentage difference on the weights relative to the target. Room 1, they were 6% in the first time we went to sell, heavier than we expected. We went too late to select the pigs for sales. We improved a little bit in room 2, and then by when we get to room 3, it got so much better. But then when we allow Peak Vision to do it, it also resulted in a good value. Now, what it was more interested and very encouraging to see is that when we analyzed the information for the number of pigs that were penalized because they were heavy into the plan, the room that was predicted by Peak Vision didn't have any pig being penalized. The penalization will differ plan to plan. Sometimes it might be even higher than 25%. For us, at the time we analyzed the data, having less penalized pigs resulted in about 50 cents a pig savings. This is a second case. This is no our barn. This is just facilitated information, but it's a good illustration of another of the benefits during marketing of the smart cameras. So these are 2 farms, 2 barns in the same farm. The barn 1, which is showing in the light gray, followed the standard procedure of the company. Barn 2, which is showing in the dark green, bluish, it was guided by the Peak Vision recommendation. So there's about 1,200 pigs in each of the barns. Pigs weigh between 60 to 290 pounds, and mortality was the same. One thing that is very noticeable here in the graph is that the pigs that were sold by the Peak Vision protocol, they used less time in achieving the same weight of the pigs. And then when we see it and understand the data, we got something very noticeable too, is the change in the distribution of those pigs. This is very important because, especially for the plan, they would like a pig that's more uniform. And then depending on the way you get paid by the plan, sometimes that reduced variation results in more revenue for you. And that's what the camera demonstrated is. It can achieve a better performance, you can save time, you can save feed, but then you can also achieve a group of pigs that has a less variation that is going to be more valuable for the processing. So for us, computer vision has multiple application opportunities. I'm just showing 2 of them that we recognize and we have measured. We believe that detecting growth reduction real time, sometimes this is caused by nutrition, by health, by environment, by management. But the key here is the rapid intervention. And the second example that we presented is we believe in that precise sales and marketing of the most profitable pigs. And I think we believe Peak Vision can take us one step towards that mission. So let's look to the future. Think about a way that you have to visualize the information of your barn. Say you have the different farms and the system will alert you when there's events that need correction. Think about a report that comes out every day for your field people to know how many pigs in what pens they are ready for sales, right? That has to have so much value to our systems. So this is our challenge for the team. This is our vision for them, is to keep working on the cost effectiveness of the solution, make it easier to maintain. It's already a great product, but there's always room for improvement. Let's work in ways to escalate this to a commercial system. And let's integrate it with other companies that are coming with more sensors, companies that are being very innovative in measuring the inventory of our feed into our beans, in measuring, in integrating data or understanding the behavior of animals, of counting the number of pigs we have. The beauty of this is going to be when we can integrate all these inputs and take better decisions from them. We believe in collaboration. I think these illustrate that great collaboration we have had with the company. There's other companies that we are working in the different aspects of the smart farming. We're interested in knowing our inventory of feed into the field. We're interested to integrate data. We're interested in learning the behavior of our pigs and also on how our feed and leg structure it is into our gills and make an impactful decisions from them. And with that, I want to appreciate once again your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rosero. Now, David's not able to be with us online for the Q&A right now, but we do have the opportunity to interact with him. So please send your questions via the chat and make sure to include your email address in that chat. Okay, so put your question in there, add your email address. The Swine team is going to follow up with David afterwards. They'll forward your question to him, and that'll help us to make sure he's able to connect with you. So now let's go to our final speaker for today. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Jon Hoek. Jon was raised in the south suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, where his grandfather inspired him to pursue a career in agriculture. Jon earned a degree in agricultural production with a concentration in swine management, and he eventually co-founded Summit Swine Smart Farms with Ed Baylor in 2019 to service the protein industry as a people-centric innovation broker, developing and assembling technologies for result optimization. We want to highlight, Jon, that Summit Smart Farms is a key sponsor for our event here, and we want to thank you and your team for helping us to bring this wonderful product forward to the audience. And Jon, I want you to know, I got my Cloverleaf update this morning. That thing reads me like a book, and there's times where it's almost uncomfortable to read it, but it helps me to learn every day. It's a wonderful way to start my day, in all honesty, because I not only get to learn a little bit about myself, but I see something about some of my teammates on there as well. So, Jon, welcome to the stage. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And yes, those Cloverleaf insights, people almost think we're a little bit in their head, but it's pretty effective. So
they hit close to home, that's for sure.
Yeah, they sure do. So that's all part of continuous improvement. So
that's right.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be here, and what a great lineup of speakers and many points that you can relate to as a founder in production and in smart farming. And so I will shift to my presentation here, and let me pull it up. Okay, can everybody see it okay?
Yeah. Looks great, Jon.
Okay, all right. So my topic was connecting the barn floor to the top floor. We had founded Summit Smart Farms in spring of 2020, and everybody knows what happened in 2020. And so it's been a fascinating journey. We've been fairly quiet, and coming from a pig production background, I have always had an aversion to overpromise and underdeliver. And so we're happy to share with you some of our journey here today. Continuous improvement is an important part of pig production. I think it's an underutilized concept, and some of it is because of a lack of data structure to make good decisions off of, and we've been hearing about some great solutions for that today. So I would start with a question. What's your vision to leverage technology and data for continuous improvement? We feel like we've seen more openness towards data systems and technology in the last year. And that's just an anecdotal way to measure it, but just through conversations, through new products coming out, there seems to be a realization that some sort of data and technology solution is coming. And I just love that analogy of our uptake in this industry to hunting. That was very fascinating. So what are the problems that need to be solved? We have an unstructured data and hardware organization. There are incredible technologies coming to the marketplace. From what our conversations with producers and with systems are, what do I do with it? How many apps do I need to look at? And how do I organize all this data from whether it's clipboards or sophisticated sensors? We estimate that there's 600 to 900 clipboards per million pigs. I think we can talk a lot about what's in the futuristic sensors and analytics pieces, but present day, there's still a bunch of clipboards in the barn capturing data that's underutilized. This comes from outside of ag, but I thought it was fascinating. 36% of managers say they're suffering from poor health due to information overload in the workplace. I think one of the previous speakers spoke about the number of new data that comes forth on a daily basis, and it's incredible. And I think in the pig business, we're starting to see, and we often suffer from data overload. Thomas Siebel wrote a book, Digital Transformation. Anybody that's trying to cast a vision for data and continuous improvement needs to read that book. Survive and thrive in the era of mass extinction is his tagline, and it's incredible. And Aidan referred to it in some of those disruptive technologies. Siebel makes a prediction that 35 to 40% of the Fortune 500 companies will cease to exist. I think that there is, whether it's that high in agriculture or not, I don't know, but I think there is a common theme there that failing to innovate is not an option. And digital transformation is frightening oftentimes because we have to look at how we invest in a different way than what we have in the past with empirical research and controlled trials. Risky and unproven value proposition, but oftentimes it is a vision of the future that allows you to make decisions on what to do. We have a lot of potential in our industry. Technology and survives, and continuous improvement feeds off of variation. And I think we all agree that the variation in our industry, Matthew talked about it, is big and provides opportunity to fund technology. The capacity to consume data is another problem. Systems have to have the ability to harvest data, to convert the overwhelming amounts of data into something usable. And in our estimation, a basic environmental harvesting of data in real time or in 15-minute, 10-minute intervals can create up to 2.5 billion data points on 1 million pigs inventoried. And so you have to have capacity in your system and in your platform to provide that. So we wanted to introduce Acuments, which is a product we've been working on for the last couple of years. It's an enterprise pig production intelligence system that can be used for IoT data capture. It's agnostic to sensors and even other systems. It's real-time production status and real-time KPIs. It's built for high-volume dynamic data analytics. It's real-time data capture, high capacity for data points, and its integration capabilities with ERP and IoT. We're building a proprietary and have a proprietary performance index that is a real-time production efficiency index that captures the data points from IoT sensors, ERP systems, and converts it into a efficiency number for prevention, intervention, and prescription. And what you see to the right is the environmental performance quality ranking. It's based on a back-end recipe around system goals. And what Acuments does is it goes out to that basically standard and says, how am I doing? And then it comes back and reports, I'm at 94%, I'm at 91%. So it aggregates sensor and information into a single number today that creates an efficiency index. So the visualization comes, each of these bars represents a particular barn. This in actually central Iowa today. This bar you see here is a hyperlink to drilling down into that site by room, and then it's also a data collection tool. September 1, we've done a fair amount of work on predictive indexes and predicting future mortality. On September 1, we have a new environmental performance quality release that will have some predictive nature in it. And we're going to, one of the requests from some of our customers was, how do I look at my trend of EPQ to reflect, am I going up? Am I going down? And if I'm going down, how do I intervene? And so we went to a 7-day Spark chart on EPQ. Each of these Spark charts represent a single site, and you can drill down into whether it's the environmental piece of the index, the performance piece of the index, or the quality piece of the index. And here you see this particular site has taken a turn down, which is going to be a reflection of some water intake or mortality events or environmental events that have either caused or are predicting a mortality event in the future. When you drill into the individual site, you will get a room by room EPQ index separated into each respective value. There's a hyperlink to click to collect data, which is your electronic clipboard, and that is where the data is entered or API'd in through sensors or your ERP. So currently, we are in approximately 125 sites in Northwest and Central Iowa. On August 27 of 2020, we started talking about Acuments. Acuments, as I'll talk about in a future slide, but Acuments is a widely used manufacturing intelligence software in the can manufacturing industry. So if you have drinking a Coke or a Pepsi, it's probably produced and run on Acumen software. That can was made in the concept of Acumen software. And in manufacturing, they're measuring 200,000 data points a second on these plant floors and looking for exceptions and smart alerts on out of tolerance events. We have our partners owned Acumens, and we have taken Acumens, and it's really much different than manufacturing today. We have taken the code and acquired the code of Acumens, and have begun transforming that on August 27 into a pig production intelligence tool. 184 days, we launched a small pilot in central Iowa with 40,000 pigs. That pilot has grown to 500,000 pigs. We've got a second customer pilot started, and are monitoring, and will monitor about 800,000 pigs, and are in the process of onboarding and making proposals to several other pilots in the industry. So what's our data hierarchy strategy for continuous improvement? We have borrowed this from manufacturing, and Purdue has what they call a data hierarchy model that when manufacturing went through its digital transformation, adopted this model. And so level 0 involves your barn floor. Level 1 involves sensing. Level 2 involves control. And so your companies like Maximus AP would be in the level 1 space, in Barn Tools level 1 space, level 2 space, and manual data entry would be in that form as well. So where Acumens lies is in the aggregation and analytics level, which is level 3, and then the level 4 is the financials. And so what Acumens does is it pulls from all levels and produces analytics that will allow you to make sense of the volume of data. What does that look like in some of the examples that we have today in the industry? The barns are projecting data at information at high volumes, and then it moves its way up the data hierarchy into a platform that assembles it and puts it into the EPQ index. So what does the future hold? What Acumens does is it allows future technologies to bolt in to have a single source of truth. And I couldn't help but think of that on Dr. Rosero's example of cameras, other examples of technologies coming forth, even record systems like our sow record systems and grow finish record systems could all be considered sensors that could bolt into the production execution portion of Acumens. So how does it connect the barn floor to the top floor? Acumens is a data collection tool in the barn through a tablet. In our clients, we provide the tablet with all of the customer support training, and it's a track and control. Production managers and supervisors, senior production managers, are using it to do population management, where we design a series of smart alerts that indicate when problems are happening. We see early warning signs, allows them to compare all sites and prioritize support. Anecdotally, we've got supervisors talking about 2 to 5 hours a week of savings of time. We're continuing to monitor that, but we are seeing some time efficiencies on that. And from the office, we'll have the capacity to run 700 to 2,000 sites or more, and so it collates and lays all those sites into one space and ranks them by EPQ, so there's prioritization. R&D efforts for proof of value. We have an innovation steering committee that we work with, and we are in conversations with Iowa State and one other entity for developing and continuing to develop analytics. But Dr. Steve Pullman has been an important contributor to our cause. Dr. Caleb Schull from MASH-Offs, and Valerie Duttlinger is our internal Chief Analytics Officer. Joe Dykheis and Jason Toshlag is our CTO, and he's a on our staff as well. User references, if somebody wanted to call and see how our products are working. Sarah Stoutner is the Director of Production at MASH-Offs. Dr. Clint Swab is the President of Acuity Genetics, and Dr. Caleb Schull is Director of R&D for the MASH-Offs. They'd be more than happy to visit with you about our interactions with them. Technology business value. From what we learned, and as we bring digital transformation, we see three buckets, and obviously empirical is the most valuable, and is the aspiration for any new technology, as Dr. Rosero talked about. But one thing that's been interesting is some of the intrinsic values that have been harvested on the pathway to empirical, and futuristic is value anticipated through future innovation. So what are some of those things that we begin to see? Visibility to cold stress, very intuitive, very very basic, but when you're collecting data, whether it's in 15-minute intervals or 24-hour intervals, we still found production supervisors surprised at the high percentage of inventories on newly placed pigs were experiencing cold stress. Cold stress in this definition was 10 degrees below set point. Early indications are that's costing 90 cents a pig. Visibility to mortality and treatment trends. More treatment trends. We were in one meeting and we displayed some the number of treatments in particular barns that was over 4,500 in a week, and you start to get questions like, that can't be right, and what are we doing out there? And so we're bringing visibility to some of this information that's been trapped in the barn on paper, and exposing it. And that early indications are that will drive our strategies around treatments and treatment cost. And we see some potential there to harvest a nickel to 25 cents a pig, depending on the severity of the outbreaks. Obviously, large PRRS breaks and things like that are unavoidable, but we are seeing some trends. What medications are being used and when? We're seeing that in obviously most of the treatments are happening in the first 6 weeks post-placement. We're able to record the dosages and the levels of dosages being used, and then breaking it out by treatment strategy. And you look at the light green bars, the dark blue bars, you've got lots of Draxxin, lots of Baytril being used, and maybe it's necessary. Maybe there's some interpretation there that needs to happen, but there's big dollars, and now we're able to capture those measurements. So who is Summit Smart Farms? We are the fifth company in the Baylor Group of family of companies, which focuses on primarily protein production. And we have one cousin who is in the church construction business. And so our construction portfolio is around $250 to $300 million a year. And the Baylor family has a high curiosity for there's a better way to do it. And so that's what launched Summit Smart Farms in actually 2020. Our technology partner is Flexware Innovation out of Fishers, Indiana. And one of the things that we talk about is the intersection of technology and pigs. We have staffed Summit Smart Farms with pig production experts. We spend a lot of time in the barns, and Flexware Innovation does business with Fortune 500 companies on technology integration, manufacturing execution, and continuous improvement. Flexware's in its core business has 6,051 projects implemented, 448 clients. There's 142 full-time. They call themselves Flex Dogs, and they do quite a bit of donation and not-for-profit work as well. And so we have a strong and a robust onshore development group that is very savvy in technology, and the integration of pigs and technology is one of our strengths. This is our team. Jason Toshlog is the Vice President of Flexware Innovation. We have two key hires happening here in August. One is, or both of them are committed, and we will announce those in the next couple of weeks. Imagine your swine business 10 years from now. I thought that was a great statement from Aidan Connolly. And I think in the context, and I believe in the context of technology, we have to ask that question. And with that, I thank you for the opportunity, and have my contact information there, and would love to chat if you have any questions.
Thanks, John. Excellent information as always. If we were in the hallway at a meeting, I'd be asking you who those two new hires were. That'd be my first question for you. But since there's a few folks watching, we probably ought to give them the confidentiality they deserve right now.
You will know them. You will know them, Dr.
I have no
Johnson.
doubt about it. You mentioned alerts, John, and certainly that's what we're looking for in information: faster and actionable, right?
Yep.
How do we take all this information in and come up with alerts that are actionable, yet we don't end up with the boy who cried wolf, right? We don't
Yep.
set the trigger on those alerts so tight that it's just a never-ending series of alerts, and we lose the really key ones because everything becomes an alert.
Yeah, and alerts are very system specific, and so our process of onboarding is sitting down with the system and saying, okay, what's important to you, and what's your definition of what drives value? And because we have gotten situations where a system will say, well, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do this, and pretty soon you've got 400 alerts, and everybody's doing the crying wolf. And so we design alerts in conjunction with the system around what they feel is important to drive results, because that smart alert logic is a very, very important part of what drives value in Acumens.
John, as you talk to your production team advisors, that advisory board you've built, and you share with them that vision of 10 years from now, here's the data that I can give you. Do you think it will be existing roles in our org chart who digest that information, analyze it, and then apply it? Or do you think in progressive production companies that they're going to have to add a new department? They're going to have to add some data analytics folks or maybe office-based staff that's looking at those records and ultimately trying to find the nuggets in them? Any thoughts on that? Is that going to change our organizational design and production systems?
I do believe it will, Dr. Johnson. I think that if you look at the innovator's dilemma, and you look at the thing that's fascinating to me about pig production, and I ran a production system for 20 years. The fascinating thing is that we get sucked into the tyranny of the urgent, right? You have a PERS break, you have some sort of a catastrophic event. It's all hands on deck. And so I think production systems have to look at not only building internal staffs, but finding strategic partners that can inject innovation into their system without distracting from the production side of things, because I think that there will be strength in collaboration. And I know some of the other speakers mentioned that as well. It's just hard to figure it all out on your own. And so I think that that'll be part of the development cycle for tech companies. I think that collaboration will be a real key to success.
Matthew Rooda talked about the human healthcare model, and I think there's an analogy with human healthcare and what we're talking about here. Like you said, production is the tyranny of the urgent. There's a never-ending need for urgent help. With, in the summer, it's electricity and water, right?
Yep.
We're always nervous about those two. And then the winter, it's biosecurity all the time. And I think our operations teams are going to evolve into kind of the emergency room part of our healthcare program, right?
Yes.
They are desperately needed, but they are also fully deployed. The ambulance has no time for the inner office type review of routine data. But I do think there's an opportunity for us to, like you're saying, not necessarily have to build all those teams internally, but partner with companies such as yourself who can have data analysts and can provide us, business intelligence, ready-made, ready to consume, and not duplicate that across every production team across the United States.
Yep. And that's our goal is how do we get to decision ready information, and information that's impactful and that impacts performance. I would agree with several of the comments in the past. There's been when we launched, or when we went out into the industry, and I was one that vetted technology in the past, that overpromise, underdeliver. It's probably caused all of the people that have talked that are selling technology a problem today, because people have been burned. And we have to bring meaningful information at a value proposition that works. Otherwise, it's just nice to have, and that doesn't work.
Hard to do, but that's why it's a
Yep.
revolution, right?
Yep.
And nobody said it was going to be easy.
Yep, exactly.
Very good.
So,
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate listening to you as always. And thanks again to Summit for being a sponsor of this wonderful event.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here and kind of share my final thoughts. What are my take homes from this event? First and foremost, I hope you appreciate that we've seen some very tactical and practical examples of novel technology that you can implement in your operation today. PigFlow, Pig Passport, Pig Vision, and many others all have the ability to improve your business performance today. We heard about the risk of disruptors. I thought Aidan did a wonderful job of reminding us that of the lessons learned of technology past, and John just did as well, right? Don't be the disc man, be the iPod, okay? And recognize when we're talking about disruptors, when we're talking about risk, every risk is an opportunity if you view it from that perspective, right? PigFlow is a disruptor. Pig Passport is a disruptor, right? Be one of the progressive producers who leads the value capture with those technologies. We've received some sage advice from Ashley and Scott about the risks of pig production. Is your culture one that values innovation? Do your leaders accept the challenges of technology improvements, biosecurity improvements, or are they actually the real barrier for those improvements? Think about where you want your business to be in 10 years. Listen to what Aidan said, and then surround yourself with business partners who share that vision. Don't forget Ashley's very valid concerns about connectivity. If you have a problem with data transfer in and out of your farms, fix it now. Okay, that is going to severely hamper you going into the future. You can't participate in this revolution if your farms can't get information in and out of them in real time. You're going to be left behind if you don't. Remember Scott's very valid concerns about biosecurity. If you have PRRS, if you have PED, if you have any of those nasty diseases, it doesn't matter how good your management or your technology is. your business performance will be disappointing if you can't keep your pigs healthy. I worked with a farm this year that broke with PRRS this winter. 33 PSY farm broke with PRRS. We go to 10 PSY almost instantly. And it doesn't matter how good they are at taking care of pigs. We have to protect the farm's health through biosecurity. Now, implementing technology and biosecurity improvements are both hard to do. I will readily admit that. I will also remind you that we just need to get over the fact that it's hard to do. Most things worth doing are hard. Progressive businesses and progressive farms recognize this and make that part of their culture, not one of their excuses. All right, now it's time for some thank yous. First and foremost, thank you very much to our sponsors, to Asymmetrics, to Cloud Farms, to Swine Tech, to Summit Smart Farms. Thank you for allowing us to bring this information to the audience. Thank you to the Swine It team. I get to see this amazing group of professionals work behind the scenes, and I can tell you they create amazing materials to not only include this event, but other wonderful materials such as the Swine Health Black Belt podcast. Go check that out if you're not a listener. It's free. It's every week. We give you a quick download of the latest and greatest research translated into a quick podcast for you to understand. There's also the Elite Swine Veterinarian Program led by one of the best swine vets in the world, Dr. Rebecca Robbins. If you're looking to improve your swine health acumen, by all means, go sign up for that. Last and not least, I want to thank you, the audience. I want to thank you for coming. Thank you for your questions. And I also want to challenge you, okay? I want you to go away from this event and not dive directly into the emails, not dive directly into the phone calls. Think about what you're taking home. Think about what you learned and what you can apply. Some of this is very practical and tactical, okay? You're probably one of the few people in your business that were able to watch this today, or that's watching it on YouTube recorded later on. What are you going to go implement? How are you going to go influence your business to apply this information? Because if you don't influence your business to apply what you've learned today, you're no different than those of us that have data and we don't use it, okay? Think about right now, write down, what are you going to go do with this information? How are you going to influence your business for the better? And make that your next action. Make that the next email, the next phone call. Go influence decision makers in your business to act on some of this information. My name is Dr. Clayton Johnson. It's been my pleasure to be the moderator of this event. Thank you very much for attending, and I can't wait to see you again next year at the 2023 version of the Pig Farm Revolution, our wonderful web-based summit. Thank you very much.